Regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Fort Myers Beach Local Planning Agency. It is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 13th. All members of the LPA are present, as well as our attorney Nancy, town clerk Amy, Jason, and Judith are our planners. If you would please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I don't have anything. Let our work be for the good of this community and helping it come back to life again. Amen.
Amen.
Could I have a motion to approve the final agenda unless somebody, thank you. Thank you both. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries unanimously. Next is an approval of the minutes for the local planning agency meeting of April 29th, 2025.
So
And
moved.
thank you, Jim.
Second.
And thank you, Doug. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And we're at public comment. If anybody has any public comment that is about something not on a case like Salty Crab or Estero Island Beach Club, you're welcome to come up and share your thoughts with us. And seeing like there is none, I'll close the public comment and we'll move on to the first of our two public hearings. Nancy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the next two items that are on your agenda are public hearings for two land use requests. And so for the So for the benefit of the public, I'd like to go ahead and make a few comments. These two items, one is a rezoning, and they're both rezonings. These are quasi-judicial in nature, and this will require that your public hearings today comply with procedural requirements that have been established in Florida law and in our land development code. So these quasi-judicial proceedings are less formal than proceedings before circuit court, but they are more formal than the remainder of your meeting, and must follow basic standards of due process that require certain notices, the application of the correct standards, and your decisions to be made on competent substantial evidence presented to you either in written documents or through oral testimony. Your responsibility is to evaluate the testimony and information for each item and then draw a conclusion regarding whether the criteria in the land development code or the state law has been satisfied. So pure speculation or opinion that is not based on competent facts cannot legally be considered by you in evaluating an agenda item today. Testimony by professionals who are qualified as experts in particular area has been considered competent evidence by Florida courts, as well as testimony by neighbors and residents who have fact-based information such as minutes, surveys, engineering reports, or if their testimony is based on their personal information and knowledge. So members in the public, if you intend to speak on either of these two items, please keep my comments in mind. And when you come forward, state your name clearly for the record and whether or not you have been sworn in. So for purposes of efficiency today, before we begin our public hearings, I'd like to go ahead and dispose of a few housekeeping matters. First of all, as I mentioned, we must follow basic standards of due process that require certain notices. So I would like to ask the town clerk, have all agenda items today been properly noticed pursuant to our land development code and Florida law?
Yes, they have been.
Thank you. And also, I need to ask if any of our LPA members have a conflict of interest that would prohibit them from voting on any of these two items today. If you could please disclose that at this time so that we can ascertain if we have a quorum present for review of the two items.
Anyone?
No conflict.
No.
conflict.
Okay, so as I mentioned, testimony today would be under oath. So if there is anyone present in the audience, including staff, who will be providing testimony today, if you would please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our town clerk.
That's for either case. And it's no matter if you're going to get up to say anything, stand and be sworn in if you would, please. Thank you all.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. All
Thank
parties
you
have been
all.
sworn.
Okay, Madam Chair, would you like me to read the title, or would you like to do that?
Sure, Nancy, go ahead and read it.
Darn it. The first item before you is for the Salty Crab Restaurant. This is a CPD rezoning. The property address is 1154 Estero Boulevard. If approved, this would be by ordinance, and the title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance of the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving with conditions, denying rezone the property located at 1154 Estero Boulevard, generally identified as strap number 24-46-23-W3-00011.0000 in Fort Myers Beach from downtown to commercial planned, to allow for a couple things. One, an increase in the floor area ratio from 1.2 to 1.96. Also, B, decrease street setbacks from 10 feet to 0 feet. C, decrease side setbacks from 20 feet to 0 feet. D, a 100% reduction in parking requirements from 58 spaces to 0 spaces. E, increase signage from 32 SF square feet to 94.6 SF. And E, conditions, providing for other clarifications as necessary, providing for conflicts of law, scrivener's errors, severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Nancy. Jim, do you have any ex parte?
None.
How about you, Don?
No.
Doug?
I had a meeting with Fred in his office, which is just downstairs from our office in downtown Fort Myers.
Thank you.
None.
Jane? Jim?
I had a video conference with Fred regarding the petition.
John?
I also had a web meeting with Fred and his petitioner.
I spoke with Fred ages ago, maybe last year sometime, about the salty crab, but nothing recent. Okay.
Does the applicant or their representative want to make any further inquiry regarding the disclosures?
No.
No. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Judith?
Good morning, Judith Frankel, Community Development. I did want to state just for the record, the address for the property is correct in the ordinance title and it is correct in the postcards that went out, but the address is incorrect in the body of the ordinance. So we will make that correction before
Thank
it
you.
goes to town council. RBI Planning and Landscape Architecture on behalf of Greg Powers and Clownfish Restaurant Holdings, LLC. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from downtown zoning to commercial planned development with 5 deviations. This request is to rebuild the Salty Crab Restaurant and an ice cream shop at 1154 Estero Boulevard after the previous establishment was destroyed by Hurricane Ian. Prior to Hurricane Ian, the site included a 2-story structure with covered porch areas and beachside dining, including outdoor seating and consumption on premises. Resolution 10-15 and COP 2012-0005 were approved when the operator was Nemo's on the Beach, but they remain with the property. The documents are included in the agenda materials. The use of the area in the EC Environmentally Critical Zoning District will require rope and post installation to establish the bounds of the area, which will require Department of Environmental Protection approval. And that comes to us from that resolution and COP documents. And in there, it also states that beach furniture is to be removed from the beach area by 9 o'clock or 1 hour after sunset, whichever is earlier. The Land Development Code requires CPDs to utilize the commercial resort standards when determining if deviations are necessary. This property lies within the downtown zoning, which would provide a better comparison to the neighboring properties, as the applicant has suggested in their narrative. So anytime we're doing a CPD, no matter where it is, what zoning district it's already in, we have to compare it, the applicant has to compare it to the commercial resort zoning, not to the district they're already in, which might be a fairer comparison because then it would be more in line with the neighbors. So a number of deviations that they're requesting would be in line with the downtown zoning, but are not in line with the commercial resort. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. The main reason they originally came to us asking for variances to get what they were looking for, but we advised them because they needed a larger FAR than was allowable, that they could not do that through a variance, and so they've gone to this CPD process. So some of these items that we're going to read through, they wouldn't have needed a variance for, but now they need a deviation for because it's a CPD.
Because it's a
so
CPD.
it's a peculiarity of the code. The first deviation is from Land Development Code section 34-654, table 34-2 for a street setback where the CR zoning district could be placed no closer than 10 feet to Estero Boulevard. The Land Development Code, as I said, requires the use of the commercial resort standards. However, the property is in the downtown zone, which permits a 0-foot setback. So they're asking for that 0-foot setback, which they would be allowed by right in the downtown zoning. Additionally, they're also proposing to provide shade structures that come off of the building, which will shade portions of the public sidewalk as a benefit to the public. So if they had set it back 10 feet, then the sidewalk would not get that shade. Deviation 2, Land Development Code 34-654 from table 34-2 for side setbacks. Again, it's a similar situation where the waterfront property should be placed closer than 20 feet as a side setback, and they're asking for the 0-foot side setbacks, which is what would be allowed under the downtown zoning. Deviation 3, Land Development Code section 34-654, table 34-2 for floor area ratio. Again, in the CR zoning district, it's a maximum of 1.2 floor area ratio, and they're asking for a 1.96 floor area ratio. In the downtown zone, the maximum FAR is 1.8. So that 1.96 is closer to what would be permitted in the downtown zone. The applicant has requested the LPA consider that some of the loading, dry storage, circulation areas that are on the ground floor, if those were not included in that FAR calculation, then the FAR would be closer to a 1.29. The future land use designation for the site in the comprehensive plan is pedestrian commercial, which allows up to a 2.5 FAR. And so their request is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. I also wanted to note that they have not requested any deviations for height. Deviation 4, Land Development Code 34-2020, D2A and H. For restaurants, requires a minimum parking of 8 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area, plus the outdoor seating. The proposed development requests to allow no parking spaces, which is a reduction of 58 spaces for a deviation of 100%. The previous restaurant operated for many years without any on-site parking, and they're requesting now to allow a similar restaurant to be rebuilt. You'll note on the master concept plan that they have provided space for loading and unloading for the restaurant and for the proposed ice cream shop, which would prevent, backing up onto or having vehicles stacking on Estero Boulevard. So they have allotted a space to get those vehicles off of Estero Boulevard to not cause any unnecessary congestion. Deviation 5, that's something that we talked about kind of later in the process. They have emailed me after the agenda went out and requested a change to what you have in your packet for that deviation 5. And I believe they have slides to show you exactly what that's going to look like. It's Land Development Code 30-5A1A1, which is the permitted signs in commercial districts, limits the maximum sign area for 32 square feet. Now they have the side of the structure that's on Estero Boulevard, and then they have a longer side of the building, which is next to Crescent Park and will be viewable from a greater distance. So they're asking for more signage. The request in your packet is for a combined sign area of 94.6 square feet. They did review their plans further, and now they would like to further request 115 square feet. So it's about 20 square feet additional than what is in your packet.
What was that number again?
115 square feet total. So that would be a deviation of 83 square feet from the 32 allowed. And the largest sign that they're asking for now is 40.5 square feet, where the largest sign previously was 20.1 square feet. I think so. They're gonna show you. It's in their.
Yeah, I've got pictures.
Okay, but what you have in your packet, they've revised slightly.
Oh,
So I believe they're gonna show you what that looks like.
Is the
Okay.
mural considered signage?
No, it doesn't have any lettering in it. No language, so it's not considered. I mean, it's considered a mural and not a sign.
Okay.
And there are proposed to be 2 businesses housed there, the Salty Crab, and then Sweet Willie's Ice Cream Shop on the ground level, which would have its own signage, which would be able to comply with the 32 square foot maximum. And no deviation is requested for that business. I did also want to say, I did ask the floodplain managers to take a look at the plans. There is more, because that ice cream shop is on the ground level. And so that will have to be thoroughly reviewed when they come in for their development order. There are requirements for utilities, where you put the utilities, different elements there to ensure that that's possible. So what we're approving now, what we're reviewing now is the CPDs, the rezoning. It does not give them, a blanket right to build everything. They still have to comply with all the FEMA regulations as well as any state regulations. Okay, and the applicant is here and they have a presentation.
Thank you very much,
Would
Judith.
you like to hear my recommendation now? And then I can go through the findings and conclusions after their presentation.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. It's been helpful in the past. Staff finds that the CPD with deviations does meet the criteria set forth in sections 34-85B and C and 34-216.2 of the Land Development Code, as well as the comprehensive plan, and recommends approval with conditions. We have a few recommended conditions of approval if the LPA decides to recommend approval with the variance. Mostly they have to do with, just general compliance. The only condition that I added in there has to do with those cantilevering of a shade structure over the sidewalk, which you can see on the master concept plan and the
Okay.
elevations they provided.
Questions for Judith right now? Anyone? Okay, thank you very much, Judith. Appreciate you. How are you, Fred?
I'm great. How are you, everybody?
Good.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for these efforts, and we really appreciate it. So, for the record, Fred Drovlik, from RBI Planning and Landscape Architecture. We didn't include a piece where I'd like to qualify a few new experts that are with my team who have not been here before. So one in
Okay.
architecture and one in civil engineering.
Bring them up.
All right, come on up. Greg and Diogo. So part of my team, one Greg Walden from BDG Architects. He'll be and Jimmy Pendley from our BGB Architects will be there if you have questions about the building. We're pretty far along on the plan, so we have some detail in mind. I mean, it's
Good.
not part of the zoning, but I know you love to see the detail and really see what you're going to get. And so these guys are here for that, but I'll let them
So
go.
if you gentlemen could each tell us what your qualifications are, and we'll make you experts. Maybe.
I'm Greg Walden. I'm Vice President, South Studio, BDG Architects, 400 North Ashley Drive, Tampa, Florida. I've been practicing architecture since 2008. Licensed architect in the state of Florida. I lead the team that's working on this. Jimmy Kennedy is my project manager on this project.
May I have a motion to
So
accept the
moved.
gentleman?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any objection to that motion? You're officially an expert, at least for us. And you, sir.
Good morning. My
Good
name is
morning.
Jimmy Penley. I'm with BDG Architects. I'm a senior project manager. I've been in the industry for about 20-something years. Great. But I would be the lead senior project manager on this project.
Okay, any objection to the gentleman becoming an expert for us? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And any objection? Okay,
Good morning, Yo Rodriguez, Infinity
Mhm.
Engineering. I've been in civil engineering for about 5 years now. I've been working with a team of PEs. Had a lot of exposure to a lot of projects throughout the country. And I've been heavily involved in this project.
excellent. May I have a motion
So
to
moved.
accept him?
Second.
Okay, any objection? You're all three officially experts for us today. Thank you very much.
All right, let's get started on the presentation. Make sure this is working. All right. So first of all, here's the team. There's also with me is Keith Diaz, who is a PE, but he's just representing as a project manager for the team from a company for Clownfish Holdings that operates as a project management over the entire project. Myself, as a planner, Greg Walden, Jim Penley just met, and Diego Rodriguez. That's our team so far. So the request today, Judith did a great job with this. The request is for us to rezone this for Greg Powers and Clownfish Restaurant, 1154 Stara Boulevard. It's a lot that's approximately 5,256 square feet. So it's a small one. It's a 35-foot wide lot. That is in the downtown zoning district and in the pedestrian commercial future land use category. And as I said, we're rezoning this to allow the Salty Crab Bar and Grill to be rebuilt and to add Sweet Willie's ice cream restaurant shop or ice cream shop. Couple of the quick highlights that you'll see today. One is that proposed building meets the height and setback requirements for the downtown district. So we aren't proposing to go taller than we need. We're just, be a 2-story structure within the 30-foot over 3 that we're allowed in this district. Meets the goal, objectives, and policies and vision of the pedestrian commercial future land use category. And we requested deviations. Judith went over those, and I'll get into a little bit more detail. We have some slides on each that give you some clarity. And then, of course, this is a legally non-conforming lot formed, I think, in the 60s or before any of the official zoning codes, only 35 foot wide, where the standard there is 40 feet. So it's a narrow one, which adds some constraints to what we can do there. But we'll show you what we propose to do, and hopefully you like that. All right, the location really well. That's obviously the Margaritaville to the right, with the beach club piece. Did a little inset there just so you can see it. To the left, obviously Crescent Beach Park. There's a few things to note there. These lines aren't exactly right, with the property appraisers, but there's the entrance to the Crescent Beach Park. And then there's a electric box, a fire hydrant, and stuff. None of those are on our property. We're right in between those and the Margaritaville building. and we have an entire facade that will face the beach park there. And I'll hit on some of the design features of that. So let's take a look at the past of this piece of property. So what I did was tried to look at the historical, the build, the layout of the historical building. And I rounded the numbers. It's not exact. I mean, there's we have a survey on it, so I got pretty close. There's property appraiser information, so I got pretty close. But I rounded just for simplicity of discussion. So it was approximately a 6,000 square foot building. This is excluding the special exception area that was waterward of the CCCL. But the approximately 5,000 feet of it, you can see that picture on the right, was under roof of some sort. So that would all that
Of
would
some sort.
Right.
I was there.
yeah. So yeah, I would describe this. I described this, and I hope I didn't insult anybody from my team, but just as a seasoned restaurant when I was there.
It's a lovely word.
Yes,
Yeah.
sand and beer, just it was just good. And
It was a great
appetizer,
place.
yeah, it was fun. So so 5,000 square feet under roof, some sort, which would count towards FAR, and obviously then there was a little under 4,000 square feet under roof on the ground level. So that's a big part of this FAR request, is that 4,000 square foot on the ground level. And most of that was back of house, the restaurant, the storage, the kitchen. None of that can happen anymore. And very difficult to get even plumbing or electricity down to that ground floor now. And so the use areas have to be pretty open. Everything has to be movable. So a big part of that FAR is now we have to move everything up to the top floor for that restaurant. And now everything underneath that counts as FAR. So that was our battle of going with the FAR that we needed. It's that everything has to be elevated now. So that's where we are on that. The second floor previously was just about 1,000 square feet under roof, and that was the seating area on the second floor of the restaurant. So a few pictures. I believe not, Google Streets View still has the pictures up there. So just a few pictures of what it was, and then obviously on the property appraisals, the last picture posted was on the right hand side there was after the hurricane and beginning of the start of the cleanup was the restaurant knocked down and destroyed at that point. But great, you can see there. I mean, the interaction on Estera Boulevard was great, and we're hoping to even improve that. But you walk by and you could just walk right in, and it was just very inviting. And we hope to recreate that kind of look and feel again, except modern, new, and fresh. So let's take a look at the future. So we'll walk through a number of these. The first ones will be architectural renderings. The next ones will be really the more detailed that give you all of our heights and square footages and a lot of architectural details that we're willing to share at this time, because we want this to go as fast as we can to get this rebuilt. So we're moving along at our own risk at a pretty fast pace. So this is the view, obviously, from Estera Boulevard, looking across kind of from the newly designed area in front of Margaritaville with the new roadway. The couple of the features on this are, you can see the awnings that Judith mentioned that are part of the condition that we put to cover the sidewalk and to at least start to provide that shade. I know that's a goal that is very important to the town, to make this a more pleasant walk instead of just baking everywhere you go in the sun.
Wait a minute, before you move,
Sure.
where is the pull-off for deliveries and?
Yeah, I can show you that on one of the other pictures. So there is, I'll show you, there's a couple of pictures that show it really clearly. The renderings don't show it quite as clear,
Okay.
but it is right beside that Margaritaville building. And it's a van delivery. It's not for the bigger trucks. So
Okay.
it is a van delivery with an overhead garage door that we can pull into.
Okay.
It's tight, but we can do that. Yeah, I'll show you that in a second. All right, let's look at this. So
Okay.
you can see it a little bit on this one. I have an even clearer picture of this.
Right.
I know it's tight, but this one's shadowed. So this one shows just the interaction of the street, and the Sweet Willie's ice cream shop is on the right. obviously with the main entrance being right there, the Crescent Beach parking lot. And then Sweet Willie's Ice Cream Shop with service right there through the windows. You would go through the right-hand side into the Salty Crab Restaurant, and that's where your circulation check-in is. And then you walk upstairs to the main seating, but there's also seating in the back towards the beach. I'll show you that as well.
So go back just one slide. If you
Sure.
want to. So it shows outdoor seating here for the ice cream shop.
Mhm.
Your next slide doesn't.
Yeah.
So is there going to be seating out there by the sidewalk or not?
That's a good question. So I'll defer to the architects. I mean, if we can have that there. There is some space there for it, and we would very much like to have that there. Yeah. All right. So there's some of the interaction with that. I'll just go on to the next one. So this is the facade facing Crescent Beach Park. As you said, the mural is a callback to the original mural that was facing the Estero Boulevard. So we wanted to reproduce that to give some color and some fun. You can see the seating on the beach side underneath. So, under roof seating. And then beyond that, I'll show you the area where there's the COP area that is actually on the beach where they can have the seating, and it has requirements and hours of what that looks like. The signage that we produce here, the one above the mural is the one that we thought maybe could be a little bit bigger just for some clarity. And I'll walk through that a little bit too. All right, let's show the beach side. Oops, oh, there it goes. So this is looking from the beach. Obviously, it's a little bit different. There's a seawall there, retaining wall actually there, and a few other things, but this gives you that angle. Produces the same awning on that side. The doors, the doors on the second floor are actually overhead doors on tracks that can be opened. So all those along the side and on the back can be opened up during the day for air and breeze, and to be, I give that open air feel and be able to look at the beach. Obviously, there's requirements for turtles and things like that, then there has to be screening and glazing to some of it. So we're working through the details of where that lands, but those can be opened and they are on tracks.
So Fred, is that the reason why there's no awnings or anything else your biggest facade is the most boring one? I'm just wondering, is it because of the roll up doors or windows?
Well, that was part of the thought. It's just to let that in. But I mean, if we want a good answer for that,
you keep going. I'll write that down. And we'll ask you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. We definitely wanted to hit the important parts. The Estero Boulevard was the most important part. We wanted to mirror that on the other side, and so maybe that's something that can think through.
Be another deviation, right? Because it would encroach.
Yeah, it's just flat. The biggest view. Yeah.
There's no side
So-
setback there.
I think with the awnings, we're allowed to encroach, or with an awning like that, we're allowed a little bit of encroachment. I think 2 feet, something like that. Yeah. So we would need a deviation for that. So that could be an architectural feature. That's an option. All right, let's give you a little bit of the details of this. This shows that overhead door a little bit more, and we know that deliveries is going to be, in my mind, one of the main questions today, and it's not easy. So we spent, I think, probably 4 months going back revising the bottom floor to better accommodate deliveries and making an area that we could actually pull a van into and load and unload. That's difficult. So the optimum way, and the way it was done before, was there was a parking lot at Crescent Beach Park, and we worked out an agreement with Lee County to pull into there on the off hours, 5, 6 in the morning, and use that as the delivery option and load into the restaurant. With the redesign, it looks like, so far it looks like they're eliminating parking, having the portable restrooms there. I know it's not finalized. And then putting bollards on there, but everything I've seen so far, it looks like they're removable bollards. So there's a possibility that we could work out something else with the Lee County that we may be able to use that area with the removable bollards, but we are not that far down the line to have that agreement. So assuming that maybe that can't happen on a future agreement, we needed to have another option that we could at least have specifications for a smaller delivery van that could back in, load out the back, and pull back out. Obviously, that's preferable to stopping just feet in front of a signalized intersection, which is not optimum. Even though we will be doing deliveries in the off hours in the early mornings, they've had to exist at this location for a lot of years and got used to doing that and had it very well scheduled to not interfere with the traffic when it's certainly at its peak, but well before peak. So that's still the intention, but at least now we're trying to provide an option with an overhead door to pull in. And my comment is, yes, it's tight, but I think we'll be able to do that and pull that off. So, so some other features here on this side. One is with the signage, and so I won't get in when we're actually on the deviation. I'll just hit on it here because these are the right slides for the signage anyway. So this is a unique structure. One, it has two businesses. That's not unique. That can be fairly common. Each business has an allowance for 32 square feet of signage. Sweet Willie's, we meet that. Both those signs on this side and on the Crescent Beach Park side are both 32 square feet. The uniqueness is, I think, three things. And those are facades. There's three significant facades on this that is, somewhat abnormal, where you have true pedestrian and vehicle traffic seeing with great visibility three separate sides. And when we're doing that, we try to hit on the pedestrian scale and the traveler scale that was farther away, because if we're walking from Times Square down the beach, you're looking down, you're watching where you are, you're not looking up to see your salty crab. So we put that sign over the entrance on both sides in order to meet the pedestrian scale. But then one up on top that you could see coming off the bridge, and you could see making the turn and be able to tell that's a salty crab. They've had the design of that logo for a long time, as you know. We think it's playful. We think it's fun. I don't think it's, a negative or a drawback as compared to just maybe some large signs with just wordage on there. I think it produces a fun beach vibe just through the logo. The sign on top is 20.1 square feet. The one on the bottom is 14.2. On the next slide, this is the one that we made just a little bit larger over the mural. So that one's 40 square feet. And then we had that one over the entrance that is the same size at 20 square feet. So those are the two signs. This is where you see from Crescent Beach and actually from Times Square if you're walking down the street. Then here you can see some of the under area that's on the beach part with those railings. That's all outdoor seating. And you can see the Sweet Willie's shop in the front, and then the stairs to get up to the main seating part. On the floor plan, the restroom, restrooms, elevators, and back of house is all obviously towards the Estero side, which is why we don't have any of those overhead doors or anything on Estero. That's the back of house stuff to serve the restaurant. And then the seating is all towards the beach, of course, because that's what everybody wants to see. Then beach side, this is the side that faces, that abuts Margaritaville. I mean, there's no way to see it. There's just a sidewalk in between, but we wanted to show that there was nothing that was going to be, no windows or anything proposed there, because there are rooms in the hotel there on that side. So,
So even with your zero setback, there is actually room for pedestrian traffic between those two buildings?
yeah, they have service doors and stuff they use. There's a sidewalk on their side and between there. So yes.
Can I add?
Does Martin-
Well, that's,
Go ahead.
oh, yeah, well, you have that. I was going to ask, so you have, because Margaritaville setback, you have room for a sidewalk, and they have room to maintain their building.
Yeah.
If you have a zero setback, there's enough room that it's okay. They can maintain their building, and you haven't obstructed their views from their rooms.
Yeah, correct. I mean, well, it may obstruct a little bit
Yeah.
on the one floor. I think second floor, part of the second floor would be, yeah, they would, that interferes with the view a little bit. Yeah, not completely, but a little bit, yeah.
Is there 5 feet between buildings?
Oh, no, because there's a real sidewalk there. There's an access.
So
Because
there will be 5 feet,
But it's on
but it's on their side.
Margaritaville
But
side,
yeah, I
Yeah,
get that.
it
But
is.
what's the distance between the two buildings?
5 feet.
5 feet.
That's my understanding. There may be some little nuances, but
So do they have
Between the buildings, there's only
Yeah.
5 feet?
Yeah. What's on the
zero
drawing.
setback?
Yeah. it's on the drawing, no.
So the question I have is, do they have any mechanical or things that could be trouble to get to by having the building that close?
Yeah.
On Margaritaville side?
yeah, not the, I
Or on
mean,
their side, either way.
Yeah.
I mean, either
Yeah.
building.
no, I mean, we've been in on contact with Tom Torgerson. We've been in design of this for over a year. And so no, none of those issues have come up again. Do you want me to address these with the architects, just make a list at the end, or do you want them to pop up here and do this up?
Up to you guys. How,
Let's do it at the end.
Let's
Yeah.
do a list all at once.
I'm making a list.
Nice. Good. Okay. So mechanicals, distance between the buildings, 5 feet. Yes.
For repair and painting and
Yeah.
you know, things like that.
Fire access.
Yeah.
Fred,
Yeah.
can you pull your mic up just a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Last one, beachside. Same logo up front, it's the 20 square foot logo up front. The retractable doors on the second floor, and then the open seating with the mirrored awning that's on Estero Boulevard. So those are the details of some of the architecture stuff. I mean, the architects can talk to even more detail about finishes and other details, but I'm gonna move on from there if we're ready. So I want to hit on the site plan a little bit. It's pretty simple, but as part of the being complete here. So there's the big square showing where the building's going to be north of the CCCL line.
Fred, that's a rectangle.
Rectangle.
Just in case you need that ever in the future again.
Yeah, us planners are just
Yeah.
basic math and
Yeah.
geometry. It's just terrible.
It's not my strong suit either.
Thank you. Yes, the rectangles. The blue area I have on there is showing where that COP is. The COP is. On the right, I listed out some of the details that may have been a question about what was approved in the COP. And so it's 1,561 square feet. So it's really specific on there. It was actually because it was 33% of the distance from the CCCL line to the beach. So they allowed 33% of that, came out to 1,561. Hours of service for the indoor and outdoor from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Outdoor entertainment from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Beach service hours from 11 a.m. to 1 hour after sunset or 9 p.m., whichever is earlier. There's required to be signage and roping off of the beach COP area required. So those are the main pieces of that. I think you understand the rest of this layout on the site plan. We do have the 4 deviations, or there's actually the 5 deviations. I haven't updated the site plan since.
So those hours of operation were what they were in the old.
Yeah, we're not messing with anything else. Yeah. All right, building height and stories. Oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Oh, I forgot I had those little things on there. Look at me. They popped right up there.
You're smart.
So building height and stories. So this is all from FDP design flood elevation. So what it comes out to be is 25.2 feet above FDP design flood elevation. So we're 20.3 feet here. Well, 19.6 feet, the FEMA base flood, and then 20.3 feet for the design flood elevation. So we're allowed 30 feet. We're at 25.2 as shown on this picture. So the actual height from grade, 39 feet. And of course, just 2 stories. So we are consistent with the comp plan and with the downtown district and the CR district as well.
So is your goal, your baseline design goal, relative to the height, to be consistent with the comp plan? Is that what you're motivated by?
No, I mean, yes, we were not going to ask for that deviation. We didn't need to. These are nice high ceilings in here.
Did the job for you?
It absolutely did the job. Yep, for sure. Yeah, we don't need it. These are nice tall ceilings, so allow for air circulation. All right. The deviations or the floor area ratio, sorry. So this is the main one that we want to talk about today. So Judith went over this very well. And so downtown district in this location, we're allowed 1.4. The downtown district allows up to 1.8. CPDs were subject to the CR, the commercial resort district, which is limited to 1.2. So we aren't proposing that we eliminate circulation spaces and dry storage and those things on the ground floor. We do have the floor plan to show what area that covers, but we're just asking for the 1.96 instead of trying to eliminate pieces and parts of it. I know the ground floor has been able to be eliminated in some cases when it's parking. We realize this is not parking. There's no way to do a parking lot on a 35-foot wide lot and actually have circulation. So there was no option for parking underneath. So we are asking for the 1.96. The justification there is that in order to have this as a functioning restaurant, everything on the second floor is going to, the first floor is going to be FAR. I mean, there's no way around it. So in order to have a restaurant even close to the size that it was before, which is about 6,000 square feet, this is a 5,200 square foot lot. I mean, so that's a similar size restaurant, but we do have additional seat. I mean, we're getting some use out of the bottom. I mean, there's no denying that. But if we were to take away at least the dry storage and area and the pull off for deliveries, we'd be down below 1.7. If we took all the circulation and everything out, we would be just over or just under 1.3. But really, we think that the 1.96 in this area is appropriate, and there's not much of a way around it unless we just cut off some of the restaurant in order for them to not have it roofed on the bottom floor. So, so that's where we are. I did break down the seating area under roof. First floor, 1,240 square feet. That was all on that beach side of it before you get to the COP area. And then on the second floor, about 1,500 square feet of seating, which is total of 2,700 square feet of seating. Rest of it is back of house service. Some of it's Sweet Willie's, but that's a really small little part. So questions about that, and if I've made it understandable and clear on this.
It's clear to me now. I was a little bit confused in the narrative, but I think the difference is you're not asking for the exclusion of the delivery area, and that's what brings you up to the 196, right?
Yeah, and the narrative, well, like you said, we've been through, we were going to come in as a variance. We realized the staff's guide said it just wasn't appropriate, the way to get around to do that. And so some of the narrative, we had some designs where we were really trying to get below at least 1.8 and really get there to some extent. So there was some place where we were like, all right, if we can ask for this to not be qualified, then we will hit that number. But at the end of the day, we're like, instead of trying to just get around it with slick language that has not been done in front of the town yet, because it's not parking, then let's just be straight up with what it is.
And the ice cream shop is window service only, so there's nothing inside there
Well, we're
for public.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's window service.
Can they get service from the other side?
The other side.
Inside the restaurant, can they get ice cream service from the other side?
No, not that I've seen the design. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, look at
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Which other side are you talking about?
Well,
Inside the restaurant, can you get ice cream service?
But just on the two sides.
No, front and back, inside the restaurant and outside, under the cover.
Oh,
Wait, hold on, because we have to have you on. We have to have you on a mic. But that's
did that make your list, Anita?
No, but I'm gonna write it down.
Oh,
Ice cream service.
I feel lazy, like I should be writing it
That's
down
okay.
too.
No, we got it.
Okay.
This way it looks like I'm doing something. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, so now, obviously, we're not, this,
Now you can
this,
see it better. Jim.
this isn't the zoning. I mean, and what is on the ground floor or the up floor doesn't have to do necessarily with the zoning. But like we said, we are pretty far along with this and we're willing to share the details because we know, well, one, I think everybody's excited about this possibility of this
Yeah.
being rebuilt. So, let's see where we're getting and really start to picture this thing. So the light blue areas are those delivery storage areas, dumpsters, other things like that a lot of which we did not have before. So that is an improvement of the site, I think, significantly. The, what do you want to call it? Taupe?
Coral,
Coral? Oh, coral, very good.
light coral.
Yeah, shapes, colors, all these. I have a narrow band of what I'm good at, apparently. So.
We'll keep reminding you of that.
So coral color is circulation, check-in, those kind of things. The blue area is really service areas and the seating, and then the kitchen, back of house operations.
You need the purple.
The
Oh, Fred,
purple.
you need new color. So you've got purple, you've
Lavender.
got lavender,
And aqua.
turquoise, yeah, aqua, and coral. Very good color choices. Yeah.
I won't go on a tangent very much. We played.
Okay.
There's a game out there called Hues and Cues.
Yes,
There
it's
is?
horrible.
It's terrible. I'm terrible at it.
It's horrible.
And I should have used some of those, the lavenders and the periwinkle.
Yes.
See?
You're far from Perry.
Sorry. I wish that wasn't part of the record. There we go.
But it is.
But it is to live on. Okay, so as we said before, all of the back of houses now has to be on the second floor.
Mhm.
Previously, 4,000 square feet on the ground floor, added delivery and storage, and then all the circulation is now under roof. So now everything under roof. All right, so that gives you an idea of that. All right, a little bit of planning analysis. This is the 4 deviations that 5 deviations. I grouped some together on the setbacks. So number 1 and 2, we are complying with the downtown zoning district. When we switched to a CPD, now it created deviations that we needed. So for the street and the 2 side setbacks, everybody adheres to on the Gulf side, pretty much adheres to the rear setback of 25 feet because we can only build to the CCCL line. So that wasn't necessary. The floor area ratio, obviously we're above the 1.2 and we're above the 1.4. So we're asking for the 1.96. Parking. So what would be required for a restaurant of this size is 64 spaces. In the narrative, I had 58 because my early math was, we changed it and there was one little part that I missed. So it is actually 64 spaces would be required, including all the COP area and the outdoor seating areas that are shown. So we are asking for that 100% deviation. This is consistent with the original. And we believe for the parking, this is the right spot. If this is going to occur somewhere, this is the exact spot that I think it's appropriate. And we'll show a slide on that about the surrounding parking, but it's not knowledge that is going to be new to any of you. And then sign area, we went over in some detail. The deviation ends up being 83 square feet. So 115 square feet of signage for the salty crab portion of the restaurant. A few things. So this is a slide we made a little while ago. I may be off of space or 2 here and there, but I mean, we got the ballpark, I think, pretty good. So what we did was show a 1/4 mile walk shed, which is what is considered to be walkable for the large majority of people. It actually can expand up to a 1/2 mile as well, and that's the orange. I'm going to stick with orange on that one. So we have the red and we have the orange. The red is the quarter mile. The orange is the 1/2 mile. Within that 1/4 mile, we're 800 plus spaces that are available. Most of those are public spaces. And then there's obviously some that have to do with Margaritaville and with the lighthouse, with the Lani Kai and some other, some of the other hotels. But within this space, this location is central to the largest density of parking spaces in Fort Myers Beach, being close to Times Square like it is. So we thought this was
Good slide. Good for you.
All right, sign areas. So I did have a complete slide on this. Went over it earlier just because I thought it fit, and we didn't need to belabor that. But if you need real detail, it's all on one slide here. And then LDC compliance, staff did a great job with this. We're in agreement. They recommend approval. We obviously agree with that, but we agree that we meet the criteria for the 12 considerations of what it takes to make or approve a CPD, and the 12 criteria approval for zoning as applicants, the goals, objective, policies, and intent, and with the densities, intensities, and general uses set forth in the Fort Myers Beach Comp Plan. So we believe we're consistent with both of those. And comprehensive plan consistency, I am not going to go over these completely, but I do think there's a couple that are important. The pedestrian commercial future land use policy. So we are within the 1/4 mile watershed of Times Square and the most major retail activities in the downtown core. So we think this is just a benefit and addition that is going to be fun to have back in place and in the right place for people to enjoy by just walking up. Upgrades to Astaire Boulevard. So there isn't a ton that we can do on there, but we are going to provide the shading, and that's part of the conditions. And then the rest of it is just that we paid attention to the interaction. So the next policy is commercial activities must contribute to the pedestrian-oriented public realm. So shade, commercial activities, beach interaction. We think this checks all those boxes. And then building height, we're consistent. Floor area ratio, we're consistent with the comp plan that allows up to 2.5 in pedestrian commercial. And then traffic impacts, negligible, very similar to the former restaurant that was there. Maybe a little bit more intensity, but we all know the traffic situation. This isn't making it that much worse. Hopefully in the park once and walk to places, this is the right location for a restaurant like this. All right. Do you have a question now? Okay. Gave me a question look, but I'll go on to the conclusion. We'll finish up. So I did have listed one slide that has the kind of key points that I want to make for this. So one, it's just the rebuilding of a downtown staple. And everybody's we've heard it so many times about the needs for restaurant and services in this location. That's what people are looking for. That's not only significant to just this part of the downtown and Times Square area, but it's significant for the entire beach rebuild is to have these restaurants and services. The bookings are going well in some of these places, but still people say, well, there's just not quite what's there to do. It's not quite back yet. So this is another one of those pieces of the puzzle that I think add to the fabric of what would be a really fun place to visit here. It already is, but how much more fun is it going to be down here and walking around Times Square? So we believe that some of the key points are that we improve the walkway along Astaire Boulevard with shade and I think an interactive atmosphere on Astaire Boulevard to make that a pleasant piece of your walk. Ground floor open air seating and beach service in a highly walkable location. Facade facing Crescent Beach Park and Times Square. We believe it's attractive and inviting. We'll hear from what you think. Meets the heights and setback requirements. FAR deviation is really to move everything and elevate it up to the second floor, and that causes us to cover the rest of the property, and that's why the FAR is higher than normal. And then parking deviation is consistent with the original restaurant. Is in the proper location is essential for the rebuild of a non-conforming lot. That's important to remember too. This is 35 feet wide. It's grandfathered in. It's a legacy to have that there, but we wouldn't have 35-foot wide lots today. And we understand that. All right, so the staff recommends approval, and as part of as me as a AICP certified planner, I believe this is consistent with the comprehensive plans, goals, policies, and objectives, town's land development code, the ordinances and other applicable regulations, and we ask for a motion to recommend approval of the proposed plan to the town council.
Thank you, Fred,
There
very
we are.
much. Thank you. Okay, so questions, Jane?
Because this lot is going to be fully covered, how are you going to build it? I mean, what are you going to do with all your construction vehicles?
Mhm.
Was that an answer?
Alright.
Somebody else is gonna answer that one.
Somebody else is going to answer that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody else have questions for Fred?
Fred, on the Margaritaville building, on the side there where the 5-foot walkway is.
Yeah.
And the coastal side of the Margarita building, there's several awnings that come off of that building that looks like they go all the way over the sidewalk.
Mhm.
So there would be no gap between the awning and the Salty Crab building.
Okay.
Maybe you should just sit down, Fred, and let's have the architect up
Yeah,
here.
well, here, but yes, that's why they are here for sure.
So does anybody have any specific questions for Fred, the planner?
Not here.
All right, do you mind, sir?
Yeah.
Let's move right into all these detailed questions.
He's an expert.
Yes. So Jim, go ahead and ask your question again about the awnings.
On the awnings themselves, we are working with Margaritaville. I mean, their property line's the same size. They're not encroaching. That's one of the reasons we don't have windows, any kind of fenestration on that and just proximity for fire code as well. So we will coordinate with Margaritaville as we move further in the plans.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
I guess it's a
Jane has a question about how will the construction be completed? How will you construct this building with literally no space around you?
That is a great question. The
We're
ownership
going to give her points for it.
The ownership is currently working with several contractors, looking at how they may best do that, and they're also investigating off-site places where they can do marshaling. et
You
cetera.
probably-
So it's going to be a challenging site to build on. They're aware of that, but they want to make the investment to get back in there and get back on the beach.
They could probably get some sort of temporary easements someplace, construction easements that they can use.
County will do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have an answer?
Other questions? Well, let
I
me
just-
just tell you, so the awnings facing Crescent Beach Park, there's nothing,
So we're not.
is
we're
the
not-
building going to be gray?
Right now, it showed up truer on this slide from where I was sitting in this one. It's got some blue tone to the gray, but it is a gray building.
Uh-huh.
And then wanting to feature the vibrancy of the mural, the signage, and again, be kind of a jewel on the horizon from the interior there. In terms of the awnings, we're not opposed. We'd love to have more awnings. We are zero lot line. We're putting awnings on our neighbor's property.
It's just that
and it's
whole,
not-
I mean, to me, the whole biggest,
What do they,
Look
what do
at
they
your-
allow
at your-
though? If they did put awnings, how far can they project? Do we know?
Somebody said 2 feet.
2 feet.
2 feet. I thought it was.
So it's not public right. It's the county park. I don't know that we.
Just for clarification, so if you have eaves, you can extend them up to 3 feet into the required setback, but they're right at the property.
Yeah,
line.
so you
So
don't, yeah, I get it.
we would, I mean, I don't know that the county would object, we would have to work something out.
it's just so
So they have to
flat.
work with the county.
Yeah. Well,
You can-
okay.
And I don't know if you want, I can go back to the floor plan, but we're using every inch of this submarine.
You gotta be up on the mic.
So,
Yeah. I don't see
The
you
microphone.
making the
Microphone.
Oh,
building.
yeah,
any-
you gotta be on the
Yeah, be
mic.
on the mic.
Yeah.
my
You're
apologies.
using every square inch of your
Yeah, we are.
of your
Yeah, you need it.
piece of land.
It is about as tight as we could get to get them the use and the seating. they
The
needed.
bird lands on the
Okay.
building over the well.
So another question that was raised is there or is there not going to be seating for the ice cream store?
So we've shown both options. Ideally, we would like to have some seating out there. That's one of the reasons that Fred went back and didn't exclude any of those areas from the FAR. From our standpoint, we'd like to see that activity along Estero.
Mhm.
Another aspect
That'd be great.
to note on that is the blue area, plan top left, is you can see where the bay door is. All of that area is not fenced off, is not secured. The security gate is in line where, if I can show you right over here.
Don't talk while you're there because we won't get you on the, yeah, okay, got it.
From that point forward, if there's a rain event and people going down Estero need a place to duck out, we've got
They
a
duck
nice
in there.
semi-sheltered space for the public.
Interesting. Okay. So yes to ice cream seating. Deliveries. So deliveries, I had two businesses in Times Square for a very long time. I cannot remember there ever being an imposition of a delivery truck for the salty crab. I just can't remember. So kudos to the salty crab for that. But now you're creating a much bigger, a restaurant with more presence. And so I think deliveries are a real concern. And of course, a van isn't going to cut deliveries for that size restaurant. It's not going to cut the bar deliveries. So how is that? Is there any way to, has there been conversation with Lee County?
So we are in conversations with Lee County. We're in conversations. They're not far enough along with the park right now. There's some concerns we have. The park shows restrooms close to where the temporary ones are now. So we're in conversation. The ownership group's in conversation with Lee County, looking for opportunities there. The last plan we saw did show bollards at not parking, but did show a pull-off. Could those bollards be removable bollards? Something that we could utilize as well. Again, we're looking at every aspect of that from, after hours. There is a bus pull in there. We don't want to rely on that because the transportation is not going to agree wholeheartedly give us full access to that. But after hours, there may be opportunity there.
What's
just
the
like what was in there before.
possibility of the salty crab providing the restroom facilities for Crescent Beach Park in exchange for what you need for deliveries or whatnot? It just might be something to think
I don't
about.
know that I could speak to the ownership on that. It's up on the second floor. It will be closed after hours. I'm not sure how that would the full use would be available. And the beach park may need more restrooms if you factored in their count.
Yeah,
The count
that's
of the
true.
restroom.
I don't think you have
it's
enough room
overrun.
for the.
So would it
extra
be
spaces.
helpful in your negotiations? If this ends up being positively supported, that we would recommend that Lee County provide or have the conversation to provide access for that in our formal setup. I think it just matters sometimes. If you want it, we want it, and council can endorse that. The relationship with Lee County is obviously very, very good. And I don't really see the downside on their side of having this all work together. So maybe we can craft something in that regard
We would
if we
welcome
get to that point.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. That would be a great idea.
How
Okay,
deep- how
other.
deep-
go
Yeah,
ahead.
just how deep and tall is the bay? 'Cause I'm just thinking like a short, the little short day cab type Cisco's and Bud Light trucks and things. They could probably back it in there. I mean, those guys could put
Or Modelo.
tight little spots. Yeah.
Yeah, we are 10 feet wide, I think.
The culture.
10 feet wide. 10.
That's
Okay.
tight.
That's tight. Yeah. And what?
The
Probably 16 foot tall, or what's the door? 14.
14.
Okay.
The door is 10.
Oh, is that
The
okay?
door's 10.
Yeah, you
10
need to be
wide,
on the
yeah.
record when you're talking.
Yeah.
On the record.
It's 10 wide by 10 tall.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's big.
10 wide by 10
Yeah.
tall. That's a
And
parking
in either
space.
case, there's going to be a backing up,
Yeah.
Correct.
whether it's to get in or to get
Correct.
out. It's going to
Yes.
have that. But you
But
guys,
it's also going to be done after
Five
hours.
and
or
After hours.
before hours.
so
Okay, any other questions for these gentlemen from anybody?
I'm just, I'm wondering if, I know you're talking to, you mentioned Torgerson and Margaritaville. I'm a little concerned about the lack of space between buildings for maintenance and whatever. But if we could just confirm that the owners of Margaritaville have no objections to your, I'm not aware of any objections, but so I assume there isn't any, or we would have been made aware of it. But I think it would be good to know for sure that they endorse your project. I would assume they would. It's a nice project, but
And speaking
just
with-
5 feet between buildings is pretty tight.
I don't
speaking
want
with
to
the ownership
rely on
last-
Facebook, but Tom has posted that he's in favor of the salty crab.
Well,
There was on
we can
Facebook.
assume
Well,
that.
It has to be
It
true.
has to be true. Gracious
And then we can assume
sakes.
that there's no problem.
but I think
You could get a letter
seriously,
from 'em.
along those lines Doug's talking about, maybe there could be some sort of a joint operating agreement on delivery sites also between Margaritaville and that. It's not, you don't have a huge volume, but you have a need. And for the amount of time that you'd be using it and the choreography would go on with that. And they have so many spaces dedicated for delivery for all the restaurants and other things. It just would seem to be a good neighbor policy. I think I see them that way, and those conversations shouldn't even be delicate. They can be cooperative, and it makes a huge difference in what you're trying to do.
That's a
So
great idea.
would you pursue that a little bit too, while you're back to what Doug's talking about?
Great idea.
Certainly.
Great idea.
You
Okay.
think about how they support the fins up side and
Absolutely.
all.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
running,
It's all right there.
they're running hand trucks back and forth across there that could go
And
straight
emergency
into their.
vehicles would have to stop in there anyway to service you guys if something happened. It just seems right to send a tone of how our
Very good
neighbors
idea.
that are going to continue to develop in Times Square can work together.
Okay, any other questions for these fine gentlemen? Did you have something you want to say? Here, come on up.
I just wanted to address the ice cream area.
Yeah.
Somebody had a question on that. When you're walking in the front door in the mauve, I would call it.
Oh, he's getting fancy.
You walk into the ice cream area and then the counter, there's a serving
there it
counter.
is.
So what we wanted to do with that is give somebody a place they could come in out of the heat, enjoy some fresh snacks, and then you can exit right out onto the patio there where we're hoping to have seating.
Mhm.
That's great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you both very much.
See why they're experts.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Fred, anything else you want to say?
No.
All right.
If no more questions, then we're good.
Good time to stop it.
If they come up, we'll ask you.
On the thing on that slide, you had late fall of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you're fairly far along with building blueprints or whatever.
Yeah.
Start date at all?
That's when they would hope to open, would be before that season hits of 2026. I mean, it's aggressive, but I mean,
Okay.
that's the goal now.
A season of 2026?
The fall, the late fall.
The late
that-
fall.
that
Okay.
Maybe November.
Christmas. Yeah.
Let's say
Okay,
Christmas.
that's that part of the season.
Christmas, end of 2026, they would
It's
love
still
to be
aggressive.
open.
Boy, it's very aggressive. That's
it's
fantastic.
aggressive.
It's only 35 feet wide.
Yeah.
So.
Logistics.
Yeah, the logistics.
Well, and you can see where we're at. I mean, a lot of the civil engineering stuff, we have a lot of that in motion already.
Very good,
With
very
hopes
good.
that everybody supports this, so.
All right, Fred, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up to public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to speak about the salty crab? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Judith?
Okay, I'm going to take you through the findings and conclusions and the requirements of the Land Development Code. Land Development Code, Section 34-85B, considerations. In reaching its decision, the Town Council shall consider the following wherever applicable. 1, whether there exists an error or ambiguity which must be corrected. No errors or ambiguities exist. Whether there
Judith,
exists.
I'm going to stop you for a second. Does she have to read this?
Well,
I mean,
It's on record. We got it.
We would like, at some point, maybe we can have a training and I can give you kind of the rest of the story. I think is it Paul Harvey that would say
yes.
this?
Mhm.
Boy, I'm dating myself.
Not that we don't want to
as-
listen
as
to you,
far as
Judith. It's just you've already
why-
done it once.
Why it's important to have it into the record. You know, it is somewhat discretionary in that if you want to say that you have reviewed her materials, that is in the record, and that you don't have any questions, we can make sure that the document is in there. That can shorten it a little bit, but yes, I would be very interested in having a training with you so there's an understanding as to why it's important to have her testimony.
I could also summarize it. I mean, it is there and I could.
And it is in the record.
True.
All right.
Could we ask if the members have read her report and have any questions?
That would
about
be
it?
one way
And
to
we're
address it as
accepting
well.
her
Exactly.
findings and
Yeah.
conclusion.
I
I'm
mean,
okay with
we can
that.
even itemize the pages. It's 5, 6, 7, and 8 of our of the packet. I just hate for her to stand there and have to recite this. For
I understand, but your decision is made on competent substantial evidence that is in the record that you have reviewed And she is providing just kind of an oral summary of that and through her testimony as an expert in land use planning in the town of Fort Myers Beach.
I think
Got all
a
that in the
summary would
record.
be okay. Yeah.
So let me just ask this. So everyone has read all of the staff report findings and conclusions, and
Yeah.
and does everybody understand them completely?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
did anybody have any questions relative to the findings and conclusions?
None.
And now, Judith, would you like to give us a brief summary?
Yes.
How's
Take a
that?
whole minute.
That works. So
Okay.
there's 3 parts of the code that staff reviews when we're determining whether or not what recommendation to make. So that's section 34-85B. And one of the main takeaways from that review is that the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, policies, and intent, and densities, intensities, and general uses as set forth in the Fort Myers Beach Comprehensive Plan. The staff feels that the request is compatible with existing or known planned commercial and civic uses adjacent to the subject redevelopment and will not cause damage, hazard, nuisance, or other detriment to the commercial or civic property uses of Fort Myers Beach. The site abuts the Margaritaville Resort and with zero lot lines will impact the view from several guest rooms on the northwest side of the abutting building. And we do not anticipate an undue burden on the transportation system. This second code section we review is section 34-85C. Again, the main takeaway from that is that the proposed application complies with the Fort Myers Beach Comprehensive Plan. Land Development Code sections 34-216A2 and A4. The staff finds that the recommended conditions are all related to the public interest, and that the application is compliant with the specific requirements of the town's comprehensive plan. In determining the whether the FAR deviation is appropriate, the LPA should consider whether rigid compliance to the 1.2 FAR limit is necessary to protect public policy in this case. Again, staff, as a summary, finds that the CPD with the deviations does meet all of the code sections I just stated and the town's comprehensive plan and recommends approval with conditions of CPD 2024-0136. We have 4 recommended conditions of approval. The first is a photometric plan to be provided with a development order to ensure compliance with turtle-friendly lighting restrictions. The second one, the applicant is to provide cantilevered shade structures from the Estero Boulevard facade to shade the public sidewalk that abuts the property. 3, final architectural design must be generally consistent with renderings provided in addition to the master concept plan. And 4, the applicant must apply for and receive all state and local permits required for the reconstruction of the proposed structures. We could also add federal into there, although the federal regulations come to us through the state, so it's kind of all encompassing.
Bravo. Thank you very much, Judith.
Thank you.
Any final questions for Judith?
I do. Do you find that by approving the signage that we will be opening ourselves up to larger signs in the future? Because we were very, very, very strict when we did our sign plan and we didn't allow anybody to go over.
Monica.
If this
Monica.
was only facing Estero Boulevard, we could say that the sign was appropriate because they're allowed extra signage for the ice cream shop and then one for the salty crab. They do have that quite large facade, and so I think that being able to see it from Times Square will help them, attract
Request as you
customers.
Okay.
But certainly people look at what other people have and say, why can't I have that also? So there is that consideration.
I think though, when you look at that, especially the part that's facing Crescent Beach, to the point, it's
It's huge.
it's a big wall.
Blank.
But I think that the sign size, which I believe is the one that's been increased, is actually more consistent and in scale with the building.
Yeah.
And in fact, the smaller one I thought looked a little small before.
Mhm.
So
It
I think
definitely-
it does fit within the scale of the mural and the building that they have. And we did revisit sign size for Santini, right? Because, and I believe that what we're doing is site specific and is in with keeping of the characters.
It's
I don't think we're
absolutely
going.
only site specific.
Site specific with unique features
Correct.
facing a large public park.
Everybody can ask.
And it is I mean, other places there's signs, allowable sign size is tied to the facade. So would say if you have a large facade,
Yep.
X number, distance, you would be allowed a larger sign because that would be more in scale with the size of the building. So I think it's an
And
appropriate request.
very few buildings are going to have three sides
Yeah, I can't
exposed
think
to
of
the
another one,
public.
that's what I've been trying to think of. Okay, any other questions for Judith? Any other questions for Fred? Thank you both very much. All right, discussion or a motion or
Jim's in
questions?
writing, so he
Jim,
wants to
no,
make a
I'm
motion.
I'm gonna act on the Lee County part. Fire away.
bravo. Yeah,
I wrote the Lee County part.
I'll make a motion to approve the Salty Sam CPD as presented due to
Salty
the fact,
Sam?
Salty
No.
Crab Restaurant as it was presented,
CPD.
CPD, I can't read it. 20240-136. I find that it meets the findings and conclusions and that it would have the 4 conditions of approval and the 5 deviations are included in the motion.
So I'll second the motion, and I'd like you to consider a small amendment in the
Okay.
motion to include some language along these lines the staff can clean up. To include a strong recommendation to Lee County to provide an appropriate sized parking structure within Crescent Park consistent with the historical pre-EM design.
I will agree to add that to the motion.
Change my second to support that.
Could I ask just a quick question? So the recommendation to work with Lee County, that is requesting that they contact, so it's the applicant that's going to be
Yes.
doing
Yes.
that. So that's the language that staff and I will work out a little bit.
Yeah, it's in addition to them working with Lee County, it's to add an additional emphasis that please look at this particular piece on behalf of the town and ultimately town council to something that makes sense. And I use pre-EM just because that gives them a point of reference.
Is there a timeline or anything that you want to associate with that?
I don't
I'm just
know that I can
thinking-
put them in that box.
Well,
to tell
I'm
you the
just
truth.
thinking of in terms of satisfying the condition. We want to have the condition clear so that
I think the
we can say
decision from Lee
yes or
County
no.
would be the timeline,
It-
meaning that,
Sorry, is it a condition or? is
No,
it
no,
just a
I mean,
It's
recommendation?
a recommendation.
Yeah, it's a
I use the word
recommendation.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's going to be separate from.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
maybe the development order.
In other words, Lee County could say no.
And
And
It's
it
not-
wouldn't-
Yeah.
it doesn't impact.
Right.
The
decision
end of the
to-
story, but
I believe you're trying to ensure that Lee County understands that Fort Myers Beach is in support of this.
There you
and
go.
that they would like,
And could you help them out?
yeah,
Yeah,
could we
it would help
please
us.
work each
it
other
was
out?
there before, so let's
Yep.
think that through.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second to approve the request. Is there any other discussion? Jane, your vote?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Anita? Yes. Passes unanimously.
Yay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I would like you to think about a little bit more of a color than gray, just gray is fine,
More
but it is a
funky.
blank wall that's huge.
Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. I'd like them to do anything on that facade other than what it looks like.
Yeah.
Every time I looked at it, I saw like a video game creature. I don't know. But what are you gonna do?
It's very colorful. mural.
Yes, but it's a patch.
Make the whole wall a mural.
Make the whole wall a mural.
Yeah, let me ask.
That's what I thought. The whole wall of mural.
Make the whole wall a mural. Back here, it is 10:36, and we're on to our second hearing, which is the Estero Island Beach Club Timeshare CPD. May I ask for ex parte, John?
Yeah, similar. I had a web meeting with the applicant and his folks.
Okay, Jim?
Same with me.
All right, Jane?
Nothing.
Doug?
I met personally with Fred in his office.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. Okay,
None.
none?
Done.
None, and I have none as well. All right, Jason.
Madam Chair, could I ask maybe that you read the title?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
And the
I
reas-
was just criticizing your reading. No, it wasn't, I was teasing.
No,
All right, here we go.
The reason is really to let the public know
Exactly,
exactly
exactly.
what's being asked.
So this
for.
is an ordinance of the Town Council of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, approving with conditions or denying to rezone the property located at 1836 Estero Boulevard, generally identified as strap number 194624W4 03200.00CE. And Jane, I'm reading it right here. And 194624W4 03200.1010 to rezone from downtown to commercial plan development CPD and request 4 deviations from requirements to provide: 1, operable doors along Estero Boulevard; 2, screening material on the ground floor; 3, increase build-to line setbacks; and 4, increase the maximum allowed height by 18 feet, providing further clarifications as necessary, providing for conflicts of law, scrivener's errors, severability, and providing for an effective date. Now, Jason.
Good morning, LPA members,
Good
staff.
morning.
My name is Jason Smalley. I'm a senior planner with your planning department. So before you today is a project that had been before you before. This is a new design and new requests. As was mentioned by Anita, this is in reference to 1836 Estero Boulevard, and they are requesting 4 deviations. If you'll allow me, I'd like to go into just a little bit of detail about the deviations as we go through. And then staff will be here for questions, concerns you may have, and the applicant's representative is here with them as well.
Thank you, Jason.
So before you is a request to redevelop 1836. Prior to the storm, this was a timeshare building, generally known as Estero Island Beach Club. They are requesting to redevelop the same 75 units that they had pre-storm. Staff has gone through the record previously and determined that the 75 units were available or were there according to the best available data through the property appraiser and documentation from the era of the original development of the building. The applicant is requesting 4 deviations in this rezoning to a CPD. In general, the first one is a requirement that buildings with 50 feet of frontage on Estero Boulevard provide operable doors every 50 feet. There are 2 clauses in this section, so there's technically 2 different clauses in that one section that need to be deviated from, but they've been collected and staff recognizes and is okay with that. The second deviation request is in relation to requirements for screening on the ground floor of the building. I would point out that the applicant is going to be providing some amount of screening, although they are asking that that requirement be removed, and that is going to be in furtherance of their the higher heights under today's codes. They're doing it of their own volition. They're going to request to remove that requirement, but they're going to do 5-foot plantings to try and satisfy the intent of the code, which was to screen that under building area where generally parking would be. So they'll be utilizing Florida-friendly designs and some amount of landscaping there to provide some screening while also respecting the requirement of the Florida flood codes. Excuse me. The third request here is to actually allow for the building to be pushed further back from the roadways. So they've requested a 15-foot buffer along Estero. That again will be planted according to their designs with Florida-friendly designs. That is one. Also, I will point out one of our conditions of approval that they'll work with us to ensure that the material used is the right material in the right place. Lastly, and the meat of their, in my opinion, the meat of their deviations is a request for an additional 18 feet of height on the building. Under current codes, they would be allowed to develop 30 feet above the base flood elevation. I would point out, since they are on the beach, they actually have measurably higher DEP heights. So their building is being developed to roughly 20 feet above sea level down there. And they would be allowed an additional 30 feet on top of that by right in the code. They are asking to develop approximately 48 feet above base flood elevation. So the overall building height from the ground would be approximately 68 feet. But they're only required to ask for an additional 18 feet because they're allowed 30 feet of development currently. So the usable space will be approximately 48 feet, 47 and change, and then we'll round it up to 48 to give them a few inches to work with. The applicant is proposing a 5-story building that's 4 stories of usable space above the ground floor, which will be utilized largely for parking, storage, and access. I would like to point out that the building is not a monolith. It is broken up into areas that are that have less floors. I believe there's an area of minimal of two habitable floors with rooftop use. And then there is portions of the building that are going to be the full 4 stories, but their deviation is going to be asking for the highest portion. So the deviation is to the highest part of the building to ask for that additional 18 feet. The building itself exists in an area that allows for a 1.2 floor area ratio. That equates out to, on their roughly 83,000 square feet of buildable space, to be about 100,000 square feet of usable space that they could develop on this lot. To avoid any deviations, their current design comes in right at about 98,000 total square feet. So they would be within their allowable code, the allowable code as it exists, and they don't require a deviation. So their FAR will be 1.2 as is allowed for anyways. The parking requirement is also going to be met. Their staff agrees with the calculations that you have seen in their narrative. With the discount that's allowed in the downtown zoning district, they will be providing 91 parking spaces. That's more than what existed before the storm, and would be in compliance with the code. So they do not need to request deviations to reduce the parking in that area. In exchange for the consideration of the deviations, they have provided some public benefits. They are all laid out in the justification section, so I won't belabor that point. I would point out, though, that they have requested, or they've offered to install Moby mats on the beach access there between them and their neighbors. So that is one of the physical gives that they are proposing. And then they've also proposed the addition of a 5-foot sidewalk down Miramar, where one did not exist. So I'd like to point out those are physical gives to the town. And we can talk about those if you would like, but the staff recommends approval based on the new design and the condition, and with the conditions of approval, as are stated in the staff report. The condition of approval that staff has put in there is also a requirement that the applicant provide signage along Palm, just to remind people that will be exiting their site to look out for folks that will be pedestrians and be utilizing that area for beach access or to get to their parking, which is also going to be there. Staff is here for any questions, concerns, or clarifications you may have, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Jason. Questions for Jason?
Jason, there's also a benefit of providing some parking on Palm that could be a revenue generator for the city as well?
Yes, so that was discussed in the last iteration and meeting that we had with them. So that would be a possible give if you accept that. I would point out that the design of the parking spaces is not set in stone because staff does have some questions whether or not they meet the site visibility triangle. But even if one or two of those spaces was not available for development, they've said that they are willing to provide that area for parking. If that's an agreement to the town, I think that should be done as a condition of approval. If you recommend approval, that they enter into a negotiation with the town to, do whatever legalities need to be done to hand those over to the town if that's what they intend.
Yeah. John, are you bringing in?
Similar, the extension of the street, is that a similar thing to what Jim?
I apologize. That was actually one of the other physical gives that they had proposed. So thank you. Yes, they are also proposing to blacktop approximately 40. I think they said 48 feet. And as their justification notes, originally that was designed as a hard pack, not a finished roadway material. So that would be one of their proposals for a give to the town as a public benefit, is to complete that streetway or street.
Thank you. Jane, Doug, any other questions for Jason?
No, I don't.
I don't. Okay, very good. Thank you, Jason. Now we'll have the applicant.
Good morning, LPA members. But for the record, Amy Sayers and Toubeau with Retzel and Andrus. I have been sworn. And
it's nice to see you again. Amy.
It's nice to see you, Anita. It's nice to see all of you guys as well. We're going to go through this pretty quickly since I think we all understand this pretty well. But as you guys probably remember, Jim Murley and John Shaw are part of the project team. They represent EIBC. Fred with RVI is our planner extraordinaire. Mike Sheely and his team at MK Architecture have been incredible in getting these renderings over to you guys. And of course, Bob Huff with Mecca Engineering. So again, to summarize exactly what Jason just presented, we're requesting a CPD, and we are requesting to rebuild the 75 multifamily timeshare units that existed prior to Hurricane Ian. So we're not increasing densities. We have come back with a maximum of 5 stories with this iteration of the design. So that plays into deviation 4, which, as Jason mentioned, is the meat of the request. The maximum height of 48 feet would be measured against design flood, which again is higher over here. So, and then the Florida area ratio of 1.2 does include the ground level parking, so we're not deviating from that. And again, the purpose of this is to meet the prior density while adhering to current regulations as best and as strictly as we possibly can. So as you may remember, we're just going to kind of go through this quickly. We submitted this application. We've gone through this. We have presented a lower building height. So we're going with the max of 5 stories versus 10 along Palm Avenue, which is what you guys last saw and what was previously denied. So as you may remember, we got a recommendation of approval. You guys wanted us to take some massing off of Acero Boulevard. We did. It got a little too high. Town council denied it. We went back. They clarified that it was denied without prejudice. Here we are. So many thanks to all of you guys for letting us get back here this time around.
We're glad you're back.
Thank you. We are too.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we did resubmit in February, and again, substantially redesigned. So as we've talked about, 10 stories to 5 stories, we reduced the FAR slightly from 1.4 to 1.2. And we've added some public benefits that Jason mentioned, which are those pedestrian improvements, beach access improvements, and again, bringing back a big revenue generator for the town. So with that, before I hand it over to Fred, would anyone like to ask me any questions or consider for the end?
Just one, perhaps process one. It seemed like as we went through, since you brought it up, the last process, that there was some disagreement internally with the owners and the board and all that went on. So it was a little confusing on where the alignment was in that. Do you feel differently about how this one has been set up?
Yeah,
She's
I mean,
swallowing hard.
I think I ought to get on that.
I have not been directly involved with every single board member and every single share owner, but this does seem to be a less polarizing
Okay.
proposition.
Okay.
So,
Okay, fair enough.
yeah.
Thank you.
Fair enough. All right, anything else for Amy? All right, thank you, my dear.
Good morning again, board.
Good morning
Fred-
again, Fred.
Fred Drawlick for the record from RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture. We are really glad to be back here, and thanks to the team, to the board, to work through. It's not easy to make entire site changes and agree on some public benefits and really go back to the drawing board on these things and get that cooperation. And because of that, Jim Morley's here. He's the president of the board. He was not able to be present last time. He is going to have a little kind of give you next steps at the end and give you that personal approach of what they really have to deal with as a timeshare. It's significant. It's a lot different than what condos
imagine.
or hotels have to deal with. So to get approval, very specific steps, very specific procedures. So he's going to share a little bit about that. And honestly, for me to give him props, obviously it's a volunteer position. So it's one of those thankless things, as many of you may understand, that that can be thankless at times, but also very gratifying for him. He's been coming to EIBC for almost 50 years. So it's very personal to him, and he's working so hard at it. He's making all of us stay on track at all times. Jim is diligent, and we love it. So, all right, I'm going to go through this, and I am going to take my time a little bit on this. I want to get everything right. So bear with me, not too much yawning. We'll be okay. We're going to make it through. So let's see a little bit of the history. I think we know, but this was a partially converted motel at one point in I would say 1981, converted to a timeshare across two buildings. So there was a 2-story building and there was a 3-story building. They were set perpendicular to the, look at that geometry. See on this one, I got that right. Perpendicular to the beach. But there were units on the ground floor. So that's important to note. I mean, we're not asking for a deviation from FAR, but that changes the FAR a lot when we have to elevate everything above the parking and get it off the ground floor. So the 2- and 3-story buildings prior had units on the ground at grade. It did include two pool areas, on-site amenities for guests. We're pretty much putting those back with just, which new niceness and design that we're very happy with. So it was built, this was all happened prior to the incorporation of the town. So did result in this, I guess, legal non-conforming as far as density goes. The 75 units obviously isn't what would have been approved under the current comp plan, but that's what was approved then. The multiplier, so to speak, would be, in that 7 to 8 range. That seems to be what a lot of ones are coming in as anymore. So I don't think it's out of tune with the town the way it is, and with the current codes and what's being approved. So, but we're not asking to increase the density or anything with that anyway. Just rebuild the units that we had, really as part of our requirements for the timeshare. We're redeveloping with the CPD. Really, so we could give this a fresh look. If we tried to do under post-disaster build back and all these other things, we don't think we would have been able to, what's the right wording? Maybe entice the current ownership to come back and reinvest. And not only the current ownership, but there's going to have to be new owners and new investors in this, and they're going to want to invest in something that's modern, great, well designed. And if we were only able to increase by a few square feet here and there and still have those 500 square foot rooms, it would be a very tough battle. So we did increase the room size and do that, but now we're trying to really come back, challenge the architect to really say, all right, what box can we fit this in? Do your best, make this height as low as we can, but still have that desirable design to this. Part of the part of what we had to meet was the new code. We can't build beyond the CCCL line, CCCL line. So there were 10 units, approximately 10 units affected. They were across that line. I have a graphic to show that, but now we have to move those back so that, it's a bit of the cause of, we need to fit those in a different square. All right. This one's almost a square. Maybe I'm right on this one. We'll see. You guys are great.
It's going to hang over you for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, we all need our.
That's right. We all need some.
So I just these pictures I had last. These are pictures of the past, but it's always a good reminder. The upper left is on Palm Avenue. It shows the 2-story building. It had like full motel fashion. You pull off Palm, you pulled right in. There were doors in front of you there for the motel rooms. So there was a bunch of back out parking onto Palm. The next one to the right with the red car on it, I showed that there's one of the entrances onto Estero, which are going to be closed off. Limited landscaping, some decent. It didn't look terrible, but we're going to propose a little bit more. Corner at Estero and Boulevard and Miramar shows what that corner like. There were cars almost up to the corner. That's going to be a really nice looking corner now, and we'll show you that. Another one, the big long picture on the lower left there is just showing that other access to Estero Boulevard. In between the two buildings, the drive aisle down there where you could see through there. So this is just a little bit of the visit of the past. And now I want to go through just some of the features that were there and some of the little things that we're going to tweak. So this is a picture of when it was operating and then a picture actually, post-in. So let's see. So first of all, back out parking on the Palm, we're going to get rid of that, put some nice buffers there, and all the parking is going to be under building. There's going to be, there was limited landscaping before. That's going to be improved. The multiple curb cuts on Estero, part of the land development code, specifies that you want to reduce those for safety and circulation. So we'll take all the entrances off of Estero Boulevard and move them to the side streets. All these little spaces had there was some parking, there was some landscaping, but that's going to be drastically improved with no parking directly onto Estero Boulevard, all under building, and we think tastefully hidden. And then the old 3-story building along Miramar was just about 10 feet off the right of way there. So, pretty close. There's residences on the other side, some rentals and some single family residences on the other side of Miramar. So we're going to increase that setback. Existing pool and decking waterward of CCCL. The pool is still there. The pool equipment was on the landward side of the CCCL. We are going to replace that, keep that pool functioning. But part of this CPD also is that we're going to replace that decking and the pool and amenities that go up to the seawall that's there. So part of this is to not have a separate special exception, but it be part of the CPD and be part of this approval plan to rebuild the decking and stuff as it was before. And I'll show, I have a little slide on that as well. That's the approximate line. This is just me drawing it in. So it shows where the former building, and it crosses that the existing pool where the CCCL line is, and that building that then those units have to be moved landward. And let's see, there's another thing. Eliminating the parking out on the Palm. And then the last two, there were two entrances on Miramar. One was very close to Estero Boulevard. They mostly had that roped off because it just wasn't a good entrance. So we're getting rid of that, moving the entrance towards the beach. And then obviously all entrances on Estero will be closed. So that's my walkabout. So let's go into the architectural design, just showing you the pictures. I'll run over the features that I see specific questions. We'll start making another list for Mike Sheely and for the architect, because I'm not going to step over where I'm an expert. At least I hope I don't. Oops, go back. All right. So here's the facade on Estero Boulevard looking across the street. A couple of features. One that you see, there's the parking underneath, where 20, it's just for simplicity, it's just like 20 feet. Most of that is just 2 stories of habitable floors. We do have a centerpiece that does have rooms on it. That's a 3rd floor, and then some open air, like sunset view areas on top of the beach. So this, and what we did propose height wise was that is it just a pitched roof? Is that what it's called? Pitched roof on top versus, so we on Estero Boulevard, we could meet the height requirement if we didn't have a pitched roof, within inches. So, but with the pitched roof, we think it gives it a more casual feel, a more residential feel.
For sure.
So we did that. So our deviation distance on Estero is under 7 feet from over the 30 foot that we'd be allowed above base flood. So that's one of the features of the redesign. That is a full story lower than what we proposed prior. You can see here the landscape we're proposing. There's 15 feet there. Enhanced landscape plan that is going to be part of this approval. I'll show you slides on that. What Jason mentioned underneath the building, you can see a couple of things that we did to hide some of the parking. We didn't want to hide all of it because you're actually going to see, quite a bit of air or light through there. But you didn't want to see the cars in full, and we wanted it to break up. So we're going to have intermittent living walls. We'll point out that in between the living walls, on the far right, you can see where it looks like it's clear and you see right through. In the other left, it's just a rendering. It's just a rendering issue. They're just as clear and open. It looks like there's some kind of glazing or glass or something. There is not. They're just to be open. So we'll have intermittent living walls that break it up, and then required to have a minimum of a 5-foot hedge maintained along the building facade and along Palm Avenue and Miramar, wherever cars are able to be seen through. So wherever cars will be able to be seen through, we have a 5-foot hedge to at least hide the front ends of the buildings. Of the cars. Yes, correct. Yep. And then I love the active roof areas. Now that things are really needing to be elevated, I just love that. What a fun sunset view that is. Here you can see the other angle. There are a couple things though I want to point out differently on this one. So this one puts in view Diamond Head, obviously much taller than us now, and we're down to the 5 stories on the back part and 3.5 stories on Estero Boulevard. But focus on the right hand side of this picture, which is the Miramar corner. So we pushed the building back. It's quite a bit back, but there's a couple of public features we want to point out here. One is there's obviously the sidewalk along Estero. We're going to connect the building to the sidewalk in that corner. And in that corner, we're also going to propose, a bike rack for somebody that needs to can park their bike there and now walk along the sidewalk that we're proposing to the Beach Access 31 on Miramar. But we also want to put some seating there and then our landscape architect's going to design some shade, some canopy trees that go over, so some shaded seating, and it's just for the public. It's not for the Estero Island Beach Club. They may use it, but it's to be in the public realm. And then we'll hit on the Miramar stuff, but the sidewalk and the parallel parking spaces we're proposing are on the EIBC property. There is no room in the right of way. They are on the EIBC property. And I'll show you that on this one. This is our final rendering view. It shows the active terrace area, the roof area. And then it gives you a little bit better idea of what's happening down Miramar Street. So we focused all of our public improvements on that corner and that side. We have some pictures of the way it looks now and today. It's in need of some improvement. It's a beach access, but it was pretty limited in its use because there wasn't a sidewalk, there wasn't parking. There was a Moby mat there at one point, but it's gone now, so we'll be replacing that. But we want to promote this as a more usable beach access than it was prior. Most people always use Beach Access 30, which is the Palm Avenue side, because there's parking there, and it just looks more like a usable beach access. But we want to promote this one as a better use. So there'll be the right of way, There'll be the parallel parking spaces, as many as we can fit in engineering wise. We think it's somewhere between 5 and 7. The sidewalk, and then our 5-foot buffer. And then we have 30 feet minimum of setback between the right of way, our property line, and the new building. Some of it's greater than 30 feet, but so we went from 10 feet from a 3-story building out there to a 30 plus feet with a 4-story building over parking. So we increased those setbacks, and that's some of the public benefit outline. I did do a compare. I did thought maybe there'd be somebody interested in this. So this is what we did propose and what we went to council with, and what we were proposing now. So obviously the trade-off here for lower height is the next slide right there, that we don't have that huge setback, and it's just a parking lot, but it was a significant setback of 100 feet or so from Miramar. And now, so it does take up more facade, takes up more room on Estero Boulevard, but lower the height, we think it gives much more of a feel that fits into what the sounds like the town really desires. So we hope we hit that mark. But that's the difference of the two. And then I have one more slide.
Just go back 1 second, Fred, you will.
Gladly.
Are the pools in both depictions at ground level?
Close.
I mean, only because I'm suggesting they're going to flood.
Yeah.
They're going to get filled up. And your design, I think, would have some sort of elevation.
Yeah.
It doesn't? Okay. Looked like it did in the old design, is why I brought that up.
Well, it level with this retaining wall.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So it's at that level. So in that way, it is elevated above.
Okay.
Just straight grade. All right, here's the heights and stories. So we broke this down to show you the really true zoned height. So this gets down to the nitty gritty of what we're really proposing. So the zone height on Estero Boulevard, 36.8, so just under that 7 feet above the 30 feet we'd be permitted. And then on Palm and Miramar, we're at 47.7. So that's the 18 feet that we're talking about. It's just rounding it up to make it a nice even number and give us a few inches to play with. So that's our deviation request for the height. So 18 feet over Palm and Miramar, 7 feet over on Estero Boulevard. And a decent amount of that, 6 feet of that is because of the pitched roof, where we could go flat roof style, but it's just not as attractive. All right, floor area ratio. Went over this. This is not a deviation. This is just one slide to just give you clarity. The downtown zoning district, we would be allowed to be 1.4, but of course we're in a CPD, so then the CR zoning district applies. That's 1.2. We wanted to comply with everything that we could on this and fought dearly to get there on this. So the proposed building is shown. We're about 98,000 square feet, but that does include the ground floor parking, and we're satisfied with that. Ground floor parking is approximately 37,000 square feet, but we're not asking to remove that. Here's a little of the facade that we were asked to do this last time to show what it would look like from a stair, just on the broad perspective. And this is the top is what we did propose before. The bottom is what we propose now. And we hope that you feel like it really fits in better with the beach, even though we used up more of the linear feet of the property. I think the fit and feel it's just more in line with what we understand the beach really wants, and we agree too. This is going to have a really nice. It's just a different. When you know this, it's a different feel when you're in a tower versus when you're only a story or two above where you want to go. Which is the beach and the pool area. So it's just a different feel, and you feel more connected to the people there instead of them looking like little ants from the 10th floor. You're right there with them, and you could yell down to somebody that lunch is ready.
There
So
you go.
yeah. All right, we'll go over the site plan quickly here, but there is a couple of things to point out. So the we don't need to call it a view corridor. I don't need to necessarily get into what is or isn't a view corridor. We have 30 feet of setback running down Miramar. It's going to be somewhat landscaped and some green space and open space. So there is more distance than there ever was on that side to see through to the beach. And we think it's just a benefit to those properties across the street. The dedicated buffers on all three sides. We're not required to have any buffers, but 5-foot buffers on Palm and Miramar, 15 feet on Estero Boulevard, and we have a conceptual landscape plan that'll be part of this approval. I'll hit on that real quick. The single access on the Miramar and one access on Palm, none on Estero Boulevard. We did move the solid waste, and this was part of the last plan too, but we're just pointing out that the solid waste is moved to the Palm Avenue side and directly across, very close to across to where the dumpsters are for Diamond Head. So that's just one small service area that doesn't interfere with single family residences. And then some of our public benefits in the blue, the shaded seating and bike racks up on top at that sidewalk area. So in that corner, in that landscape area, some public seating and a bike rack there. And then most of the other features that we offer are settled into the Miramar side down towards the beach. So the gray area along Miramar are the proposed parallel parking spaces. We do intend to build those and build the sidewalk. And we would love the condition at the end then to be the long turnover for a use easement to the town for the parking spaces. So you can put those into the system and charge for those for public beach access parking. But then also long-term maintenance turned over to the town of those. So we'll construct them, put them in there, and then turn it over to the town for maintenance and use. Same with the Moby mat at the end. We're showing it here connected to the sidewalk. That may not be where the town wants it. Wherever you want it, we'll put it. It's the end of the street. It was at the end of the street before. If there's going to be a sidewalk, we think it makes sense there, but it's up to the town, whatever you want. The extension, the other gray there at the bottom is the extension of the roadway. And so that serves a couple of purposes. One, it just finishes off the road, which is a lot of times is a typical requirement of an LDC anyway. But it also serves that we could then fit 2 more parallel spaces there and turn them over. So, or it could be, we actually do have room too if we need a turnaround there. That's not our entrance. Because there's a concern if you're coming down that road and it's a parallel space, then we'll need to turn around. We're going to design our entrance so that they can make a 3-point turn in our entrance. But if we have a parking space or 2 beyond that, we may need to look at that closer. So those spaces are the ones that we have a question about. We're just not sure design wise once we get the development order how those will work or not. So we got to make sure and go through the engineering on that before. But we're committed to whatever fits. We'll put in there. Other features of the master concept plan, one, we're meeting parking. We're required to have 75 spaces with the discount of the downtown district. We have 91. I think we had 88 prior. So, and honestly, it was just what fit underneath the building. So a few more spaces is never a bad thing. So we were able to accommodate 91 spaces. Yeah, those are the main pieces of that. So did want to highlight that we do want this to be part of this is the development waterward of the CCCL that was there historically. The pool is still there. We want to just refurbish that and replace the pool equipment. But those the decking and pavers that go up to the retaining wall, we'd love to put those back and have this as a use as part of this.
Fred, I think I read that you're not looking to replace the cheeky hut though, right?
Yeah, that's not part of it. They feel like it might be quite a bit of trouble to do that at this time. So we were not proposing that as part of that. I think it would be very easy to do on landward of the CCCL, but we use some of that up for building and for the moving the dumpster, the solid waste over there. So we don't have that room. And to put it beyond the CCCL is a whole nother battle. So live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. What did you find to be an acceptable size room for new sales and things like that.
Yep, the room size we're proposing is 842 square feet.
842
Yeah, that's the,
square feet. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So under
Don't
roof.
require 4,000.
No, we don't.
No.
Not for a timeshare.
Just questioning.
No.
Just-
Any other questions for Fred at the moment?
I still
Okay.
have more.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
Already.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm finished.
Are you really?
No, look.
Oh.
That's another.
Josh is fully engaged now.
Josh is fully engaged.
No, I do have a few more slides.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
I'm about 6 or 7 left. Oh, no. Few more. Yeah, as soon as that comes back.
We can't talk about a picture.
Yeah, okay. All right, I just wanted to point this out. So we have done a conceptual landscape plan. I know you'd love to see what's really truly going to get built from perspective from the street. We don't have that yet. We're just trying to balance between not spending owners' money who haven't even been assessed yet versus really showing you something. But this we can do and show you the landscape plan and with some details. So we want this attached to the approval, and it locks in the numbers of hedges, number of trees that'll be put per linear feet. It outlines the page 2 is the smaller picture with all those species. So we coordinated with the garden club on this and several other projects to come up with a list that they thought was most salt tolerant, looks good, provides some color, and then but it's approved list from them. So we coordinate with the garden club on that list, and that's the species list that we would use. There's a fair amount of detail on this, and we would offer this up as part of the approval and the resolution as far as to lock us in, so to speak, on the landscaping that we'd be providing around the perimeter.
Like palm trees along the stair.
Yeah, and some canopy trees in there too. I mean, we have a room of 15 feet. We have some room for some shade. So we can design some of that. So maybe give some shade over parts, at least break it up a little bit when you're walking along a stair. Get there slowly on and making a comfortable walk as far as we can, so it takes one property at a time. The planning analysis, I think I don't need to spend too much time on this. The first 2 deviations weren't controversial the first time around, so I don't think they will be this time either. The exceeding the maximum height, we said that 18 feet is our total request. And then the build to, we have this in here, but because we're the CPD, we're actually under the CR zoning district. But just to be clear on this, we are the CR district we would actually almost meet exactly. So we would just have one deviation off Palm because we're only 10 feet where we would need to be 20. But the downtown district has to build 2 lines. We have to be in between 5 and 10 feet. It was suggested by this board last time that would be a good deviation for us to move the building back and provide. So we did that. So that's the deviations. I am not going to do the LDC compliance, especially based on Judith or Jason's very good summary at the end. We agree we meet all the criteria for approval of rezoning and specifically to the CPD. And we are consistent with quite a few of the comp plan and actually meet a number of those. We'll hit on a couple of these because I think they're worthwhile. So the pedestrian commercial future land use policy. So what we focus on was providing a better pedestrian experience and a better and improved use of one of the public beach accesses that was, really just walking down the middle of the street out onto the beach. If you found a place to park in a different place, now we could have a few parking spaces. We know how those fill up. They're always used, especially early in the morning. You can't even beat people to them. So a few spaces on that will contribute to the public realm. At the end of that Miramar, we did have another bike rack there in addition to the Moby mat. So you could ride your bike down to the end, put it on a bike rack there, and then walk out onto the beach. Upgrading Estero Boulevard with landscaping, buffers, shaded seating, and bike racks. Removing policy 4A5 and 4B8 are about safety and rebuilding or moving units and not reconstructing over the CCCCL line. So we're adhering to that. Commercial activities like this must contribute to the public-oriented public realm. And with our improvements, we think we're hitting on that one as well. The height deviation of 18 feet, and then traffic should be negligible, if any difference at all, based on the historical use of 75 units, and we're not changing that. So now public benefits and the last conclusions, which includes an economic benefit analysis. So we spent a little bit extra money and went over, and we have some economic benefit analysis after this of what a timeshare contributes to an area, and the results are, I love them. So it's just great. So here's the list of public benefits. I think I've hit on all of them, so I don't need to go over those. The list in the blue text is what we believe is true public benefit, and we believe they're able to be done as zoning conditions and enforced, and not have to be done in a separate covenant or developer's agreement. So we would ask that we actually have conditions of approval with some specific language about in perpetuity and who has the use of them and maintenance, that we would request at the end of it be included in the final resolution, so we don't have to go through a separate process. Our initial discussion with staff so that we think these can be enforced through zoning versus some of the other things that have been presented to the town are just tougher or inappropriate to capture in zoning. So that list is the true public benefits. The stuff in the orange and the green are stuff that's going to happen, but they're positive things. So we're not trying to include those in our list of public benefits because they are, but they aren't. I mean, they aren't by the definitions that anybody has put forward that I can understand. But quality design, sustainability because of the flood requirements and how we have to build, the economic benefits, and then the safety with the closure on Estero Boulevard, with the closure of those entrances and the improvements to the right-of-ways, I think are all beneficial to the result of the project. But I don't think we need to lean on those as calling them a public benefit. And lastly, so let's hit on a few of the numbers. And if anybody is that interested, we have the full PDF of the entire report, but I pulled out three of the conclusion slides to hit on these. So let me highlight some of those. So this slide shows at completion and launch, EIBC should return to normal occupancy. So prior to this, they were at a 90% occupancy on average year round, 95% in the peak season, October through March, and then 86% in the off season.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And that's what a huge benefit of the timeshare. I mean, that people have their weeks and they come. I mean, so they're paying maintenance fees on them. Yeah, they're already paying for them, so they're coming. So then what do they do when they're here? So it's approximately 11,107, based on the average number of occupants and the rooms and the number of weeks. It's just over 11,100 visitors on a yearly basis, and a number of them in the off season when a lot of the other condos and hotels are a much lesser occupancy rate. So then what does that mean? How do the people spend then? So based on all the different study and everything together, it was an average of $971 per person spent as far as dollars. That totals to almost $11 million into the local economy every year spent on room and board, in this case maintenance fees, but restaurants, any other service that you want to use. So $11 million to the local economy. We're estimating the construction will generate approximately, so this one's about construction and just during construction, 90 plus local jobs during construction, 270 jobs in the regional economy. Construction generate approximately 46 million in total economic output based on all this services and the construction timeline. And one of the other benefits is there's I'm jump around. That's one of the other benefits to the just having the timeshare there is that not all of them are well, they're all paid for by ownership, but a lot of them get put back into the rental pool. So it isn't a hotel room, but I mean, it is one of the other, it does add to the inventory that we know now is about 50% of what it was. So it does add back to the inventory not of a straight hotel room, but of a week stay place for a rental in the rental pools. All right, and so last slide, summary of all that stuff with the economic benefit. So expected to host over 11,000 visitors per year. That's about $11 million in annual spending at local businesses. And this isn't property tax, but town in sales tax, about $620,000 a year in annual sales tax for the town. EIBC owners typically stay longer. Average hotel stays just over 5 days. EIBC or in most timeshares are a week, so they stay a day to 2 days longer than most hotel stays. And that's part of that real spending per person number being so high. And consistent year-round economic activity. And then the other part is just about the design improvements, a lot of which are required, but they're just part of the benefit on there. So yes, I'm getting to the end now. So I've produced this slide, and you all on the board know this very well, but at least it shows that the EIBC is a half mile from Times Square. That's a true walk, or that is very walkable for a lot of people. This corridor is very busy, and I just tried to highlight some of the businesses that were on that the people from EIBC would frequent without getting into a car or not needing to be into a car. Obviously, there are some things they go into a car for, maybe a trip down to Publix, to get some groceries and cook and have some food. But these are the other uses that they would hit on as they walk up to Times Square. So what I want to do now is the conclusions there are just a standard thing about my professional opinion as an AICT certified planner, in agreement with our other expert testimony, that we are consistent with the comp plan goals and policies, objectives, the town's land development code, ordinances, and other applicable regulations. But I do have one last piece that I want to do. And I want to bring Jim Murley up because I think it's interesting to hear the next steps and what they're required and what they're working through in this process, and just his personal thoughts about
Will you be coming
this.
back up then for questions?
I will. I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll go back up. Come on up, Jim.
Just trying to get the stage right.
For the record, my name is Jim Murley. I'm from Indianapolis and
Hey, Midwest.
getting ready for the biggest one-day sporting event in the
Yes.
United States, maybe in
Yes,
the
you are.
world here in a couple of weeks, and I'll be there.
Good for you.
But anyway, proud of our Indiana Pacers that are going to beat Cleveland tonight. Hopefully nobody's from Cleveland. But,
Okay, you should stop that.
Nobody's.
You gotta be careful with that stuff,
I'm from Indianapolis, so you got one.
I'm from Indiana.
I've never been to an LPA meeting before, and hopefully I won't get too far off track, but I've seen all of you many times over the past 2.5 years visually, and tried to follow as much as I could what's going on down here, but it's been a tough almost 3 years for all of us. But anyway, I want to recognize I got 4 other board members sitting back here in the back, so there's 5 of us here. And I appreciate every one of their efforts, and I especially appreciate the ownership for sticking with us to the extent that they have. I want to thank Fred and Amy for showing you all the plans and the renderings and everything else that we've gone over today. But if I could spend just a couple of minutes to talk to you about the thing that's really dear to all of us is the ownership. And if I'm getting a little emotional, I don't mean to be, but
don't you apologize for that. We all get it. We get it.
well, like Fred said, most of our owners spend at least 1, but most of them spend at least 2 weeks a year here. I actually had units, and I will have in the future at Estero Island 4 times a year, and I bought them 4 times a year to go and coincide with our board meetings. I got tired of looking for someplace to stay, so I bought them. But anyway, we've got owners that come from 40 different states, 4 or 5 different countries outside of the States, including Canada, Germany, Spain, the UK. And I'm here from our liaison of the ownership company that we actually got ownerships now in Guam. So we got people that come to Fort Myers Beach from all over the place. And if I get away from this, I'm sure you're going to tell me, because I know that from watching you guys. And
Yeah,
gals.
we're tough.
And hopefully that spinning circle is not going around. But anyway, I'm getting off track. But some of our owners date back to when the timeshare actually come into effect back in the 1980s. And I mean, we've got families that continue to come there. Obviously, like myself, getting a little bit older in the gray hair, but you know, we keep making that trek. I remember the first time I came down here, there was the old wooden bridge back in the mid 70s, pouring rain, 20+ hour drive from Indianapolis, and I have to watch my language. It was good to get out of that car at what was then a hotel. That's where we're now at. But anyway, 4 generations of my family have been coming down to Estero Island Beach Club, like I said, over the last 40 years, 50 years. And it is, and it will be again, a fantastic, affordable place for people to come.
Thank you for your tenacity.
Thanks. You know, the families have so many memories of walking up and down the beach, enjoying a cookout, but just as important, meeting the numerous people and friends that have come and gone. But we're going to do it again. And I apologize.
No.
And hopefully with your assistance today, we're going to get past this and start driving some pylons or whatever. I don't know the terms. Mike and John.
They're
know
probably
them, but I do.
rectangles.
Yeah.
Squares this time. They better be for straight.
Anyway, you know, like I said earlier, you know, the past 3 years have been challenging for all of us. You and my ownership, our owners combined, we've lost of the original 3,825 units, which is a multiplier of 51 weeks a year and 75 units. 3525 was the max. But we've lost approximately a little north of 300 of those owners.
That's all.
Well, yeah.
That's quite extraordinary. Good for you.
May I call you Anita?
Yeah, of course you can. You call me whatever you want.
As board members, we hate that we've lost that many.
I know, but that's just really amazing.
But,
Good for you.
hopefully we don't lose any more. But you know, we've lost those 300. Some of them actually just deeded their unit back to us because they simply couldn't justify, they couldn't afford it. And our maybe I shouldn't get into the finances, but I mean, pre-Ian, our annual maintenance fees were less than $600 a year, including tax. That's pretty reasonable in today's world on Fort Myers Beach. Try to get a hotel room down here for a week. But anyway, wish I could say that we've got all the heavy lifting done that we as a board are going to have to do and keep, you know, coming back. But the reality is, as a timeshare, we've got obligations that are mandated by our bylaws and our condo docs that we have to comply with. And the first one is, assuming we get approval on the 16th of June, and we're optimistic that we will, the first thing that we have to do is take the plans that are in front of you today, and with revisions that may come out of this meeting or with the town council, and go to our ownership. We've got to show them the plans. We've got to give them our best estimate as to how we're going to pay for it. In effect, how they're going to pay for it, how we're going to pay for it. And that'll, even though that package that we send out will include a proxy or a ballot to vote on. These are the plans, thumbs up, thumbs down. This is what we think it's going to cost. This is how we think we're going to propose assessments, if that's the right word. And I always put it in quotes, whether it be a straight out cash payment or a loan or a combination thereof. It takes 60 days for those owners to get back to us, or that we have to give them 60 days per the bylaws. And once that occurs, depending on what the outcome of that is, it takes a simple majority of those voting to approve or not approve what we have to do, and we'll move forward accordingly. So, but again, we remain optimistic that we're going to get easily that majority being approved or approving the plans, and because we think they're great. I mean, obviously we've been through a lot of different generations of this, and these are the best ones, and for all the right reasons. As soon as we get through the planning process and we get the approval, we've got to, again, we as board members have a financial responsibility to our owners that we can't just go out and start throwing money around. One of which is we didn't go out and spend $500,000 to hire an architectural firm to work on plans that we don't even know we're going to be approved. And so that's the next thing. Day after tomorrow, we have a board meeting that will be going through the RFP that's been put together by Amy and her team that the board will approve, hopefully, and we'll get it sent out to various architectural firms within the local area that we feel are quality and will generate the results that our owners and everyone else expects, including the town. Well, that's step number 2. And then lastly, being a timeshare, we're not a developer, so we don't have deep pockets. Our owners don't necessarily have deep pockets. Here I stand in shorts in front of you, and I apologize for that. But
You're dressed perfectly.
But we don't have the deep pockets that a developer may or may not have. So when we go to financial lending institutions that asking for X millions of dollars, they may look at us a little bit differently as being a timeshare than what they might some of the other developers that you've been working directly with or through. So we're already starting to pursue that. Again, we can't go too far because we don't know where we're really going to be come June 16th, other than we know we're going to get a positive result, right?
Third time's the charm.
And I'm almost through. I mean, there's a ton of other steps, but I mean, those are the 3 immediate things that we've got on our table. Again, pending June 16th. If we get approved, and we will get approved on June 16th, it's going to be news to the board members behind me, but we're going to have a special meeting on June 18th to move forward on a lot of this stuff and keep this project moving forward. Not only, for our ownership, that's who we signed up to help, and that's what we're going to do. But in closing, I just hope that we get a positive result today. I'm sure we will, and that we will also in June, and our owners deserve it. It's been a long time coming, and 3 years has been tough, like I said earlier, for all of us. And that's all I got.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
See you.
You did a good job. You did a good job. Okay, questions for Fred? Anything?
Yeah, I requested a question, Fred. I'd appreciate if you send me that PDF and the economic impact, the full thing. I'd like that.
I thought you might ask for that.
Yeah. On Miramar, when you're coming down towards the ocean and all the parking spots are on the other side of the street, how does that turnaround work in your mind to get lined up for the parking?
Yeah, that.
Because you got a main entrance coming into your facility there. Obviously, it's a residential street.
Yeah,
It's a great amenity. I'm not arguing at all about the spaces. I'm just trying to see what you were thinking about traffic management.
Yeah, so I think one thought was that whatever gate or whatever system we put on to that entrance will be deep enough that somebody can make a 3-point turn into our proposed entrance underneath the building. So that would take care of the spaces north of that. The spaces south. I'm not sure. So those are the 2 that I'm just not sure we may be able to keep, because it's either you need a turn.
That's right. It's got to be a cul-de-sac or some sort of a
or hammerhead of some sort.
fire department whole thing.
Yeah, and what we did go over with fire, so it's not a concern for fire in that extension. None of that had to do with fire. We went through these plans, and there's a part of that master concept plan that the fire department reviewed and said you're good. But those 2 spaces at the bottom just may not be able to be done, or only one of them, and then allow a turnaround just south of there, because no matter what, they're going to be facing the beach and need to get turned around there. So we got to figure that.
It's not a huge deal to me. I just thought we'd have the conversation while it was active. So you'll figure it out, but Just want to raise it.
Yeah, so there, I think if worse, it may have to be a, some type of hammerhead or turnaround at the end. And we can use our side of the property for that. We have that 30 plus feet there.
Any other questions for Fred?
Are all of the units the 842 square feet, or is there a range of different?
No, we're gonna make them all, I mean, give or take a foot or two, based on things, but they're all gonna be identical as we can possibly make them. It's gonna make it easy. We have to reassign rooms, which none of us would want to do that. So it's making them all the same is at least one step in the right direction.
I just have a question, Fred, around, as you revisit those last two parking spots closest to the beach, if there's a way to incorporate a public bench down there as well. I love benches that are near the beach for people to sit down, see the sunset from. Once again, obviously not a condition, just something to take a look at.
No,
perhaps.
that's an interesting idea. We want a bike rack down there at the end, and that would be, yeah, that's something good to think about. Yeah.
Other questions for Fred? Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. We'll open the public comment. Is there anybody here who'd like to make comments on this project? You've all been sitting through this. You don't have anything to say, huh? Okay. We'll close the public comment then. Jason, anything for follow-up? No? Anybody have any questions for Jason or for Fred?
Not here.
All right.
No.
Well, let's have some discussion or a motion or something. Nobody wants to make a motion? Okay,
I'll
you could
just,
go right ahead, John.
I think I can speak only for myself, but I think that the work, the effort, the energy, the tenacity, the openness to listening to the community, I just want to commend the applicant for going through this entire process. And you're right, each of us up here have our own issues and personal challenges as we built back, and we completely empathize, and we commend you for it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice to see somebody so passionate about Fort Myers Beach who only spends 4 weeks a year. Maybe that's why. You okay. I'd like to entertain a motion. Who wants to take a stab at it?
I would make a motion to, well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. I'd like to propose a motion to approve the Estero Island Beach Club timeshare CPD, adopting the findings and conditions that the staff has set forth in their report, along with 4 approvals, conditions of approval, and finding that the 4 deviations are acceptable.
Jim, do you want to include the Moby mat and things like that, or do you want to just leave that out?
I think they're all in the.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
part of the master concept
Okay.
plan.
Great. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim.
And just a additional conversation for a second. We have it on the table. The applicant was emphasizing the amount of work, detail, effort, and granularity they went into with landscape plan. And I think calling it out as being a part and parcel to the overall approval is not only respecting the investment made to get to that level of cooperation and detail, it also can send some sort of a signal to future applicants that this type of detail helps a lot in the way we process and gives us comfort that what they represent will actually happen. So I'd add that with my second. That's approval to Jim.
That the conceptual landscape plan that was illustrated in Mr. Droblick's presentation be
Be
included.
adopted as part of the conditions of approval.
Do you agree, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, and second accordingly.
Okay.
Can
So
I
we
ask a quick question?
You may.
So on the public benefits, I agree that a lot of those could be ruled into the ordinance as a check the box.
Yeah.
Is there an understanding that there's a maintenance requirement as well for those? For instance, if the Moby maps are washed away for whatever reason, that they would replace
They're
them.
gonna be turned
No.
over to.
No, they're turned over to the town.
The town's going to accept all that if they get to that point.
Okay. and
They'll
then the
build it
town-
and send, turn it over to the town. The county.
Okay, and then the town would be responsible for
And
the
that
That was
was
my
maintenance.
understanding.
That's the
Okay.
same with the pavement and
Same
the
with
parking, right? And the
Okay.
Sidewalk.
They build it, we come to the table with the money.
And continue to
maintenance.
maintain it
For
over
maintenance,
time.
For
yes,
maintenance
that's
and
right.
Okay.
Okay,
I have a
Go
question.
ahead. Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's
Doug.
kind of related. Maybe it's for Nancy. So we saw a very nice presentation by Fred. Is that part of the record of what we're approving, or because it's not necessarily in the
Absolutely.
package?
It is. It is, because a copy of it is given to the town clerk.
Good,
And
okay.
she combines it all.
Yeah. So that your
We
reference to
refer to
that.
back to the
Yeah,
detail.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Actually, just a clarification on that. I was thinking that it referenced the master concept plan in the conditions of approval, but it doesn't.
It's the whole-
It
it's the whole-
says that it would be substantially similar to the design. Is that acceptable
Right.
to
It is to
everybody?
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this? Well, I'm so happy for your owners. I met these two gals from Wisconsin, they're sisters, and they've been there forever. I wish I had their names because I think about them every time this comes up, and I'm very happy that this has a motion for approval. So your vote, Jim?
Yes.
Doug, you're,
No,
or
no.
no, Jim?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes. It passes
Yay.
unanimously.
Yay.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations. I usually tell people you can't clap in these meetings, but that deserves a clap. That was a long road. Congratulations. Okay, next item on our agenda is administrative, Amy, it was good to see you again. Administrative agenda. Let's give these folks a couple minutes to exit out. You're very welcome. You call us if you need any help with anything.
It's 14.
Oh, boy. She didn't mean us. She meant
Yeah,
her.
so I meant me.
She meant her.
Less than 75.
Oh, that was so nice.
And if it's a social.
Okay, so here we are with public notice. An ordinance of the town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, amending land development code section 24236, notices to require applicants for rezonings, development agreements and developments of regional impact to provide mailed and posted public noticing prior to LPA and town council hearings, providing for severability, codification, scrivener's errors, conflicts of law, and providing for an effective date. And this doesn't require ex parte because it's legislative in nature.
Correct.
Thank you, Nancy. All right, so Nancy,
Yes, ma'am.
do you want to talk about this?
I think
Or
Judith
Judith
is
wants-
the,
good.
the architect of it.
Perfect.
Okay, so I believe we talked about this once before.
We did.
Making this change to the public notice ordinance. So there's kind of two parts to this. One is strengthening what we're going to require for public notice, but also clarifying who we expect to do the public notice. And so there's a couple changes here to what you saw previously, and I'm going to go over them with you. So previously, the ordinance broke it into three general kind of items that would come before public hearing. The first being rezoning, which would include CPDs. We've also included in that category development agreements because that is a new public hearing process into that category. So that's the first level of kind of a more intense public hearing process. The second category is special exceptions and variances. As you all are well aware, a lot of variances that come through are small in scale. They're for single family houses. We see quite a number of those. And then the third category, administrative appeals, quasi-judicial, and that's a separate category. I think in considering this, I think it's important to kind of break it down because when we get down to, if you're looking at it, so that's in the A section, and then we go down to B and C. So when we're talking about the types of notice, the mailed applications, we kind of tried to break it down further. So previously, the ordinance put everything that was coming to public hearing in the same category. My inclination was to break it apart a little bit so that when you're talking about single family homes or 2-family home, there wasn't such a high burden on an individual property owner like you would put on a developer coming for a condominium or resort entity.
Good common sense.
So,
Really is.
what we're requesting for says applications for commercial institution and multifamily development is fairly similar. The applicant or their agent must provide proof of mailed notices 7 calendar days prior to the scheduled public hearing. Previously, staff had been putting out these notices. It's a kind of a high burden on staff. A lot of the other communities require the applicants to do this noticing. They have large staff and kind of abilities to do that. There's also private firms that, will do this also. Most legal firms are familiar with this process. So they would have to provide to us 7 days in advance of the meeting their proof. So that could be photographic images of all of the postcards they're sending out, or